Van kindsbeen af, met raad en saam, met lyding en nood, verdriet en saam staan jy staan. Jy is altyd daar. Dit wat ons doen, ons liefdes, ons vreugdes, ons plekke, ons thuistes, tot daar waar ons reis, jy is daar. Afrikaans is ons wese. Dis die taal waarin ons groet, die taal is in ons bloed, is Afrikaans, vir ons mense. En ek stuur vir jou 'n sein, met 'n boodskap daarby, en waar jy is, sal jy dit kry, in Afrikaans vir ons mense. Al verander straatname, al word helde laat val, ons is steeds stuur ons arm, ons kultuur, ons verhaal, dit sal altyd bestaan. Afrikaans is ons wese. Dis die taal waarin ons groet, die taal is in ons bloed, is Afrikaans, vir ons mense. En ek stuur vir jou 'n sein, met 'n boodskap daarby, en waar jy is, sal jy dit kry, in Afrikaans vir ons mense. Ons is daarmee gebore, die taal waarvoor ons staan, dit vloei deur ons are, ons kinders praat het saam, dit sal altyd bestaan. Afrikaans is ons wese. Dis die taal waarin ons groet, die taal is in ons bloed, is Afrikaans, vir ons mense. En ek stuur vir jou 'n sein, met 'n boodskap daarby, en waar jy is. Dis die taal waarin ons groet, die taal is in ons bloed, is Afrikaans, vir ons mense. En ek stuur vir jou 'n sein, met 'n boodskap daarby, en waar jy is, sal jy dit kry, en Afrikaans vir ons mense. Afrikaans vir ons mense. Afrikaans vir my mense. Afrikaans vir ons mense.
Camera's not there. Hang on. Shoot. Sorry about that, folks. A little bit of a failure there. Don't know what happened to my camera. There we go. Welcome aboard. Hey, welcome everybody around the world. South Africa, Sawubona, Holland. How are you guys doing? Dumela, Botswana, folks around the world, welcome for tuning in. This is Chris coming to you from Central Pennsylvania on Indaba, Africa. Once again, the Chris Wyatt Africa channel. Thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen, for yet another exciting day in the world of absolute lunacy around the planet as we discuss events taking place. Let me adjust that microphone a little bit. I trust everybody can see me now. I'm going to adjust this over. I don't like that little logi thing right there. It's covering up my logo. Anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in. Really happy to come. I decided to do a stream today for a couple of reasons, primarily because my special feature today on Friday was a Nigerian-American businesswoman, Toyin Umaseri, who came on. We had a fantastic stream, but boy, it just kept going on and on and on. We spent an hour and 45 minutes in that stream. I think almost all of it's quite informative and entertaining. If you want to check it out, please feel free to go check it out. By the way, I saw a lot of comments, people commenting about the music video. That is, of course, Giselle singing Für uns Mensa, for those who don't know it, quite a beautiful song. If you don't speak Afrikaans, it's a really gorgeous song, and if you read the lyrics and see them translated, you'll be even more impressed. I hope that everyone's well out there. Let me just a second here say hello to everybody. I'm just making a few changes very quickly in my browser so that I can keep track of what's happening here, because the browser and the software don't always work together. Now, I made a few changes in my Streamlabs here, so I'm hoping it pans out today. And what I did specifically is I changed a few things around. What I mean by that is that if anyone gives a super chat, hopefully it will show up on the screen. That's the plan. We'll see how that goes. But for those who don't know, I have added the super chat feature to my channel because people asked for it, and we used it yesterday for the first time, and it was actually a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It was almost as much fun just seeing the stuff pop up as it was counting the pennies, the shekels, the cents, and the rand after the fact. But thank you so much. Let's see who we got here. Heino Vivia says, I love the song Miss Cape Town Pearl. Yeah, I think saw somebody in the chat saying they want to visit. Maybe it was Kyle saying wanted to visit that monument. I assume you're talking about the Afrikaans monument, which is located in Paarl. It's on a hill just north of Paarl with a beautiful view, as you can see from the imagery there. I've been to that monument. It was fascinating. To my knowledge, it's the only language in the world that has a monument dedicated to the language. Quite impressive. And sorry about that. Yeah, so you should check it out. Get to the Western Cape and check out the Afrikaans monument. And you see the contributing factors from different languages that contributed to Afrikaans, its roots in Dutch, of course, Malay coming in, and other things contributing to the language. It's quite fascinating as someone who studies languages just to see that. So it's really cool. Oh, Quentin, look at that. Oh, super chat, pay per view. Well, thank you so much for the super chat, Quentin. Put that to good use. Thank you so much. Did it come up in the window? I shut the browser down. I didn't see it come up. So I messed around with Streamlabs. It has a way to put those things up in here, and I think I might have not been successful. It's supposed to activate something every time somebody does a super chat, but I don't know if I pulled that off or not. There it is. It just came up. Look at that. Did you guys hear it? Did you see it? All right. Let's see if it comes up there. I'll get back to the video. Yes, I'm hoping so that when people super chat, we can actually see it. That's kind of a cool thing, I think. People go to the trouble to offer up a donation. It's pretty cool to see it recognized on the screen. So hopefully that came up on the screen. I'm getting an ad on my side because I reopened the browser. Isn't that entertaining? Skip it. Okay, there you go, Quentin. Yeah, a little monster running away from there. I haven't quite figured out how to change that yet. So there you go. There is the recognition for the super chat. That's brilliant. So I figured that part of Streamlabs out. Now I've got to come up with something better than the zombie running away or whatever that was. Well, folks, thanks for tuning in. Who else we got here? Let me say hello to some of the folks going back. It's the usual suspects here, right? That's right. Are we looking for Kaiser Sose? That's right. We're looking for Kaiser Sose. Sloat is here. Heino. You came over from Ronaldo's chat. Thank you for coming over. Yeah, Ronaldo's back. So those of us who are entertaining notions of poaching his 8 p.m. South Africa time slot or 2 p.m. on the East Coast of the U.S., we can either compete with Ronaldo or we can not compete with Ronaldo. I was in touch with him yesterday. He told me, I know about it, he was coming back tonight with the stream. And so it was good news to know. So I told him, I said, hey, thanks, I appreciate it. And then I planned on not doing a stream this afternoon. But, of course, that changed as a result of my special guest earlier. And there was some leftover topics that we need to discuss. And I know a few people tuned in just for those. Kyle, there's a super chat. Well, thank you, Kyle. Very kind of you. Wow, that's cool. Let me slide over my camera a little bit more because it's covering that up. There we go. That's a little bit better. Actually, my camera's a little bit too big here. There we go. That's better. All right, folks. Well, thank you, Kyle, for that super chat. Wow, super cool. Now, I noticed that came up on the screen, but it did not show up in my chat. That's really weird. Okay, so maybe I'm too far up. I went back up. So let's see. We got Sloth, we got Heino, the Gaming Wizard, Get You Online, Lynn. Now, folks, isn't this cool? There are only a few thousand subscribers and only a few dozen subscribers, under 100, who come here consistently, regularly. So I can say hi to most people. But if we ever get to the stage where there's thousands and thousands, I won't be able to say hi to everybody. So I'll get the usual suspects. You guys are the usual suspects for now. So who else we got here? Wesley, Quentin is here. Quentin gave a super chat already. Thank you for that. Keith Alderson, good to see you again. You were in the chat earlier with some very good questions. Thank you for tuning in earlier, Keith. They were really good questions, as were some other folks. I wonder if, let's see if we find Michelle in here as well, Jardine. That was all before we get started. Get You Online, Lynn, Quentin, Kyle. Who else? I'm missing somebody here. No, there's Willem Viklis Beast. Good to see you there. And I'm way behind the chat. Let me catch up. Bite Your Ankles. Hey, there's Bite Your Ankles. Sean. Yep, good to see you there. What else we got? Peter Mola. Good evening. Good to see you, Nant. And there's Quentin's super chat. There's Kyle's super chat. The Gaming Wizard. Hey, Chris, even though South Africa states that it is democracy, could it actually be a puppet state cover up for the rise and establishment of the communist regime? Well, famously, of course, totalitarian regimes oftentimes arise out of the permissiveness and good nature of a liberal democracy. We saw that happen in Germany in the 1930s when the National Socialists rose to power, using the instruments and methodologies of a democratic system to undermine it from within. We are seeing it here in the United States, currently with the Democratic Party, which used to be a political party, but now it's simply a movement of progressive leftists. The Democratic Party has ceased to exist as a functioning political party. Don't get me wrong, it's still a political party, but it's not based on governance in a market-based capitalist system with a constitution that guarantees our civil liberties. It is a bunch of lunatics that want to overthrow the existing order, and with nothing. Hey, Yanni, there you are. Good to see you there. Gentleman Flables, Elizabeth. Hi, Elizabeth. I don't recognize your avatar. Have I seen you there before? Melt Murray, recognize Melt. Okay. And UCN. UCN had some questions, which I'm going to address in today's chat, so thanks for coming back up, folks. Yeah, I hope that you guys are enjoying the chat, enjoying the stream. It's my hope that it is an enjoyable one. But before I get to the questions that are going to come up, and I'll answer those questions. Sorry, I got an email here. I'm just checking it. There we go. By the way, okay, so a little bit of news for you to let you guys know. For those who've been curious, I have been asked endlessly, when will I talk about secession on this channel in South Africa? Well, ladies and gentlemen, Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m., my guest will be Phil Craig. That's right. Does anyone know who Phil Craig is? Well, Phil Craig is someone who's associated with the Cape Independence Advocacy Group, CIAG, Cape Independence Advocacy Group. Phil Craig will be on my program for an interview this Sunday. That's what, the 14th of June at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and at 5 p.m. in South Africa. So no one will be in church. No one should be braaiing at 5 o'clock. That's a later thing. People here in the U.S. may be in church, so they can be excused. But we can't go to church, can we? It's lockdown. So there's no excuse. You can tune in and hear a discussion about Cape secession right here on Chris Wyatt Africa, the Indaba Africa Group, on Sunday. And by the way, for tomorrow, for those who don't know, my regular scheduled Saturday live stream with a guest will be the Conscious Caracal. That's right. Aaron Fonsile will be on my program tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. in Gaborone and in Johannesburg. And we'll be talking about contemporary South Africa with the Conscious Caracal, whose program I appeared on recently. He will be on my program tomorrow. And then Sunday, we'll be talking about Cape secession with Phil Craig. So there you go. Isn't that cool? All right, so those things are coming up. I just want to make sure you guys knew about that. Yanni's laughing at something someone else said. Jacques says competition drives performance. That's true. Mario van Wyk says, how is it from Cape Town? Well, pretty good. Summer, beautiful day here. Interesting developments in the land of utter chaos, especially on the West Coast here, where the self-declared autonomous zones seek to run their own system of governance in a semi-independent or independent state. We'll see how long that lasts. Not the first time this nonsense has happened in America. Throughout our history, we've had others. Sean says, more importantly, don't forget to tell us about your rugby jersey. Well, there you go. I'll stand up. All right, so there you go. Now, this is a Sharks jersey from BLK, and the reason I like this one is the color pattern, also the neck here. And what I really like about it is it doesn't have that annoying Mr. Price logo in the center. That's right. It has Cell C. I don't mind having Cell C on my jersey. I really don't care for that Mr. Price logo. I hated those jerseys, and when the Sharks switched to Cell C, I bought a Sharks jersey. So yes, I have a Sharks jersey, and I have been at the stadium there down in Durban to watch them play, as well as watch them play elsewhere in South Africa. So there you go. Well, let me see. Chris Wyatt, what would be the best way to send you a package from South Africa? Honestly, it's expensive, but the best method most likely is DHL. It's the most reliable if someone wants to send a package, but it costs a lot of money. A lot of money. That's the reason I don't have a Ronaldo hose cap, a sec cap, because I've been a member of his site for a bit. But until the lockdown, he couldn't ship anything, so that was a holdup. Now I just need to get some money to him to pay for the DHL shipping, because DHL is a bit pricey. I buy my Stormers and Western Province jerseys normally through the shop in Cape Town, and they ship it to me. Fortunately, with the Rand declining, the price of the jersey is actually the same or less than the shipping, because the shipping price hasn't changed, but the jersey price has gone down in dollar terms for me. But DHL figures their prices based on dollars, and then they adjust it in local currency. So anyway, but yeah, best way would be that way. Let me take this off. It's driving me a little bit nuts here for a little bit. I'll set aside. Maybe we'll switch over to this cap at some point during the day. There you go. Make America, or keep America great. There you go. Trump 45. I'm going to talk a little bit about Trump here shortly, or we can just switch back to this cap. I got all kinds of caps sitting here today. How's that? That's comfortable. I'll wear that for a little bit. Right. Okay. So Vernon says, "Yay, sharks." There you go, Elizabeth. No sharks. See, it doesn't matter which way you go. Somebody's going to be happy. Somebody's going to not going to be happy. Look better in the Stormers. Well, I agree, Mario. I prefer the Stormers, especially the Stormers jersey that has my name stenciled on the back. It says Wyatt. Have you seen the new concept cheetah jerseys? I have not, Sloat. If you got a picture of it, I'd be happy to see that. Send it to me an email, or send me, or let me know about where to find it. Sean says, thanks to some financial backing from the Vatican via the German Catholic Party, the Bank of the Vatican at the time was run by. A few subscribers clap, and then we can send you a South African care package. Well, that's very kind of you. Dan, I wrote your question down as well. You were in the stream earlier today, and I'm going to talk about that. So thanks for rejoining. So there's two folks here for sure that I know that popped in that I want to make sure I address their concerns. That was UCN and also Dan Veckman. So we're going to talk about your concerns or questions from the earlier stream today. But before I get into that, I did promise that I'm going to show a few things. So the first thing that I want to pop up here is check this out. Now this is ironic and quite funny. I think I need to make myself a bit smaller here. So let me get back to that first and make myself smaller. I got so many things here in my software that it's hard to find things. There we go. I'm going to reduce myself a little bit so that I'm not quite so big. And here you go, ladies and gentlemen. I found this to be absolutely hilarious and funny because poor Black Lives Matter. Their protesters say that Seattle's autonomous zone has hijacked their message. What a tragedy when you resort to lawlessness and violate the rule of law and seek chaos and threaten people and harass people and force people to behave as if they're a member of your cult. And then they turn on you. Black Lives Matter protesters say that Seattle's autonomous zone has hijacked the message. Well, absolutely. First off, I don't believe Black Lives Matter has a legitimate message to begin with, nor does the Seattle Autonomous Zone. But as you look around the Seattle Autonomous Zone and you look in Oregon where the same thing has happened in Portland, you see an awful lot of privileged, elite, spoiled white folks demanding all sorts of things that make no sense whatsoever. So there you go. Black Lives Matter. Turnabout is fair play, ladies and gentlemen. Starbucks. Okay, so let's see what else we got here. Actually, I just have the top chat on. Let me get all the chat here. I'm probably missing some people here, so I apologize for that. Okay, so, no, I haven't missed everybody. I pretty much, oh, there's Rachel. Hi, Rachel. Good to Rachel Smith. Good to see you there. Let me get back to where I was. UCN says hello. Okay. Zooming in church. I'll be Zooming church. Yeah, that might be the way to go to church is to Zoom. That's a way to try it. Okay, so people are loving this. At least the hippies in the 60s lived outside of society. Trump must take down these terrorist governors and get it done with. Well, bite your ankles. I appreciate the sentiment, but that's not really something that's there as a constitutional or viable option for the president to address that. But there are ways to address it, and when people break certain norms, they will find themselves in a bad way. So we'll leave it at that. Sean says, oh, I already said that. Let's see. Elizabeth is from Cape, so it's Stormers. Whoop, whoop. Yep, I'm with you there. I'm a Stormers fan. Just wearing a different jersey today. The Gaming Wizards Society says, do you think that the USA will be facing armed protests soon? We're already facing armed protests. They're not protests, Gaming Wizard. It's insurrection. These riots are not genuinely riots in the most part. A riot is when a mob gathers or protest gathers or people are there and something happens to incite them to violence. These are planned. These are intentional. These are organized events taking place to loot, pillage, destroy, maim, and harm innocents. That's what's going on here. Looting is very different. This is an insurrection, and it's an armed insurrection with bricks, nightsticks, other things. So yeah, it's already taking place. When do you vote for governors? Well, it depends on the state, Tian. Each state is different. Of course, every state enters the Union at a different stage, except for the original 13. Once the Constitution was ratified in 1789, then those 13 states were in the Union, but they were already in the same country because we were in the Articles of Confederation. So after the original 13 states or colonies, each state entered at a different phase. For instance, Ohio became a state in 1804. And then based on that, that's when they had an election. Some states adjusted periodically, but each year, roughly, of the 50 states, probably about 10 to 15 to 20 max will have, or every other year, not each year, excuse me, will have a governor race and somebody replaced. We don't have a race this year for governor in Pennsylvania. That was decided in 2018, I think it was the most recent time. Vernon says, at the moment, the left got very violent. I hate the wanting to rewrite history, good or bad. It's what brought you to that point. That's true. And with this nonsense about rewriting history, so now they're trying to eliminate the Gone with the Wind because people say bad things about black people and the way black people are treated is incorrect. Well, yeah, it's historically accurate. Would you prefer they glorify it and Rhett Butler be a black man and you missed the whole point of the story about the oppression of blacks? But no, it's supposedly only about the glorification of antebellum Southern the South. Well, it's not simply about that. It's about a lot more than that. And when you cover up these things, then how do people learn how things were done wrong or unfairly or unjust in the past? It's nonsense. The fact that Huckleberry Finn has a black kid and a white kid and they address each other a certain way is not a statement on 21st century United States. It's a statement on 19th century Mississippi River culture. And that's what's being discussed there. You can't wipe away history because then you don't learn from it. You don't learn from it. So people seem to think that the reason people behave the way they are is because there's a history. No, people behave the way they are because of ignorance, because of hatred, or because of discrimination and bigotry that's a result of learned behavior. Learned behavior, not necessarily from a book or from history. How many people pay attention to history in school? I do, and I'm probably one of the few people that actually pay attention to history in school. So most people don't even know their own history, so they're not getting these examples from that. They're not getting it from old movies. They're getting it from learned behavior from peers, parents, and those around them if they're doing something wrong. And you're not going to change that because if you eliminate Gone with the Wind, or you remove all the books from people who are not black authors on your bookshelf and all you have is Toni Morrison on your bookshelf, that doesn't suddenly make you aware or conscious of what has happened in the world and what will happen in the future. And it doesn't change your mindset. People will still behave the way they behave if they behave in the wrong fashion. Stupidity is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. General Flabel says, saw the video of a 75-year-old being pushed by guards, and I say, well, he was pushed by law enforcement because he refused to yield and remove himself from the scene. I saw the video footage of it. He was directed to remove. The police were advancing up the street in the interest of public safety. He intentionally put himself in the way so he'd be knocked over. The police officer, protecting himself, reached out and pushed the person back. He intentionally fell down and lost his balance. The person was using a radio jammer to block the frequencies of the police who were trying to protect public citizens. No empathy for that guy. Don't believe the footage. What you see isn't always what happens. He's a malcontent, he's a troublemaker, and he brought it on himself. Just like the fake Vietnam veteran who was a Native American who attacked the boys from Covington verbally, standing in their face, physically getting in their face, beating a drum, and the media turned around as if these arrogant, privileged, white, racist youth from Kentucky went to D.C. and were harassing a poor Indian who's a Vietnam veteran. Number one, he's not a Vietnam veteran. He was in the Army during Vietnam. There's a distinction. I'm a Gulf War veteran, but I'm also a U.S. Army veteran. I'm an Iraq veteran. I'm also an Army veteran. But if I had not gone to either of those campaigns and I claimed to be a veteran from that, that would be misleading. He actually told the press that's what he was. He's a liar. That's the first thing. Second thing is when you see the full footage of what happened in Washington, D.C., you'll see that, in fact, those kids weren't bothering anybody. They just happened to be wearing a MAGA hat. So that made them legitimate targets. Underage children, a legitimate target for a piece of crap filth who came over, got in their face, and beat his drum to make a scene. And then the press lied about it. So when you see footage, ladies and gentlemen, remember, you need the full perspective. That's why I say when I show a video that this is what we've seen. This is one angle of it. Doesn't mean we have the whole picture. It's like what happened to George Floyd. All I've seen is one piece of footage with the cop having his knee on the guy's neck. But I saw it for 8 minutes. That to me is quite disturbing, and clearly something is wrong there. But if we just seen, say, 10 seconds of it and people lost their minds, I would say, hold on, let's get a grip here, okay? But the point is that 75-year-old man brought that on himself so he could be a martyr for the cause. That's what that's all about. But he was actively breaking the law and jamming police frequencies. I hope he's in jail. I hope he's been booked. And I hope he's indicted on charges of terrorism or terroristic activities because he's threatening public safety. No empathy for the 75-year-old man. If he's 15, I would have a little more empathy for him because he'd be stupid and hasn't learned yet. But a 75-year-old ought to know better. He did it intentionally, ladies and gentlemen. Destroying statues and memorials, disgusting. Speaking of destroying statues and memorials, Vernon, Black Lives Matter supporters vandalized the 54th Massachusetts Regiment Monument in Boston. Now, what's the 54th Massachusetts? That is the black regiment of Union soldiers who were raised and led by a white officer from the movie Glory. Oops, something came up. We got something there. Somebody just subscribed. Let me slide it over. John Mills, thank you for subscribing, John. So the 54th Massachusetts is the regiment that was of black Northern volunteers who fought to end the Civil War on the Union side. And what did they do? They trashed the memorial. What does that have to do with black lives? It's certainly ludicrous. Anyway, these people are just thugs. and hopefully they will be declared terrorists just like Antifa, which is a terrorist group. Anyway, destroying monuments is stupid. What do you learn from that? You learn that destruction is good? No. I'm sorry. I have no empathy for these people. Let me see. Watched a piece of Raz stream this afternoon. That man is nuts. Who's Raz, man? Who's Raz? Ranting as well. The Chaz rise or fall? What's Chaz? Bring me back to that again. I'm losing the plot there. The Hodge twins claim. Oh, the Hodge twins. That's the two black fellows. Yeah. The funds donated to BLM fund the Democrats through the same web. I don't know. That might be true. I don't have any information on that. Do you think that the Chinese Communist Party instigated riots, or was it just because Antifa? No, there are several actors behind what's going on. Antifa is one of the main actors that's caused this insurrection. I'm not calling it riots. It's an insurrection, ladies and gentlemen. The Hague's not going to get involved. Trump or Biden? Trump all the way. Did you miss my hat? There you go. Trump 2020, just in case anybody missed it. Yeah, Trump 2020. We were censored what we could watch and listen to in the apartheid years. That's true. And we were totally oblivious to the outside world until awareness started seeping in during the 70s and 80s. The South Africans, that's true. Covington kids were set up, shows how the media pushes a narrative, can't judge what you see. Am I late? Doggy Boy, just a little bit late, but not a problem. You're welcome to join us in the stream. Thanks, folks, for tuning in. By the way, thank you for the super chats that came up earlier. I really appreciate that. Folks, by the way, if you don't know, we're about 30 minutes in, so I'll say you're listening to Indaba Africa on the Chris Wyatt Africa channel. Thank you for tuning in. Today's topic is focusing a lot in the U.S., but we will talk about South Africa as well. And we're also going to talk about Botswana today because there's some events taking place in Botswana where people are once again losing their mind over COVID-19 hysteria. But thank you for tuning in. And for those who are unaware of it, by popular request, I did enable the super chat on here. And we started yesterday, and people were very generous with the super chats. Thank you for that profusely. Today, I managed to figure out how to get my Streamlabs to work so that we can recognize people when the super chat comes up and also when a new member joins. So that's kind of cool. So if you see that pop up, that's intentional. I'm just trying to recognize folks. So there you go. Let me get rid of that Black Lives Matter thing. I'm going to come up to another topic here in just a moment. Let me catch up. Statues are often state property. Vandalizing statues should be a serious crime. Yeah, Sean, but statues are often also private property. And vandalizing private property is a crime as well. So, yeah, true statement. It is disgraceful. Doggy Boy says, why am I watching this? I have 2 assignments due at midnight and an exam tomorrow. Well, then Doggy Boy, go study, my friend. I don't want you to get in trouble. But, of course, in South Africa, I don't know what you're studying for, but if it's for the matrix, you just need 30% to pass. That's all. So, do you strive for excellence? Will it even matter? Starbucks. Okay, so Capitol Hill. There's a. Thank you, Joanne Myberg. Yeah. What about the Chaz? Let me go back. There was a question where the Chaz was. Let me catch that again. Now I'm not finding it. Somebody said Chaz in here. This chat gets away from me at times. It's very frustrating. Chinese Communist Party. Okay, I can't find it again, but thank you, Joanne Myberg. Yeah, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone in Seattle. That's exactly what it is. They're declaring their own independence of sorts. Not going to happen. When has Trump sorted out that nonsense, Seattle? Well, it's not Trump's to sort out unless they threaten federal facilities or break federal laws. I'm sure they can figure some way to figure out that they are doing that. So, do you think the riots will help or hinder Trump's election? The riots certainly aren't going to help. I think COVID-19 has been a wash. The left wanted to destroy Trump. It hasn't. It hasn't helped him, but it probably hasn't harmed him either. This nonsense now for cogent, reasonable people who around the country may not have voted for Trump are probably more inclined to vote for him now. But the problem is there are so many irrational people who buy the nonsense they're seeing on television that it's hard to make a prediction. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second because CNN is all in its propaganda. And that's what we're going to talk about, chasing his Russian male bride. Okay, let's see. Here we go. So these are some things. Why the electoral map is even better for Joe Biden than it looks. Now, this is a fascinating news story on CNN today. Fascinating from the standpoint that it's just utter cock. So this author, Chris Silaza, CNN editor-at-large, mind you, was released just a short while ago, about 2 hours ago, and he writes this article and says, why the electoral map is even better for Joe Biden than it looks. And he goes through and lists a whole bunch of reasons about how easy it is for Joe Biden to win. Biden wins back the industrial Midwest by reclaiming Michigan and Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, 3 longtime Democratic states. True, but that doesn't seem very likely. He claims polling suggests Biden is ahead today. I'm not buying that. He says Biden wins Florida and Arizona. Florida might be possible. Arizona, I don't see him winning. Biden wins Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona. I don't think he'll win any of those 3. Biden wins Pennsylvania, Florida. He could win Pennsylvania, but from what I've seen around me, it seems unlikely, and he can win Florida. Biden wins Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina. I'm not sure. North Carolina was close last time. I don't think it's nearly as close this time. We shall see. But then for Trump, he says, now turn to Trump's map to 270, and in doing so, you immediately notice there are fewer ways that he gets to 270. Trump loses Michigan and Pennsylvania, and it's all over. Number 2, Trump loses Arizona and Pennsylvania, and it's all over. Number 3, Trump loses Arizona and Michigan, and it's all over. And that really is about it. Yes, the Trump campaign has made noise about expanding the battleground in Democratic states like Oregon and Minnesota. The former is laughable. The latter is within the realm of possibility, but there's little polling to suggest they can do so. Well, that's interesting. So this is yet again another hatchet job about by CNN on Donald Trump. So there you have it. These guys are not even mildly objective. The language used, the adjectives used to describe Trump's chances are all negative and all made as if it's a joke, and they prop up Sleepy Joe as if he's actually a viable candidate and give all kinds of ways he can win the election. Yes, Joe Biden can win the election, and I'm not saying it's possible that he won't, given what's going on, but just utter nonsense that's happening here around the country. And so I actually ran some quotes here. Let me find those. Here's another one by Stephen Collinson on CNN. The president's resumption of campaign rallies, he'll be back on stage in Tulsa, Oklahoma next week, is crucial to driving home his two-pronged strategy. But reality is intruding. Attendees will have to agree to sign a disclaimer that stipulates they won't sue Trump's campaign if they get coronavirus in a packed crowd. In itself, the event will be a massive symbolic repudiation of the idea that there's any reason for Americans to change their behaviors or attitudes in the face of two massive national crises. Now, let me talk about this bit by Stephen Collinson. So that's interesting. He makes a fair point. But the problem with that is that the op-ed is written as an analysis article, not written as op-ed, which is intellectually dishonest. Trump defined as cultural change sweeps America by Stephen Collinson. Very defined. His photograph also is not very complimentary. He looks like he's constipated. But anyway, that was unfair, but he does look that way. So the whole thing talks about Trump, and it paints all these things. And there's no discussion. He makes a valid point about Trump holding a rally and the Republican National Convention taking place in Florida instead of North Carolina, and people signing waiver that they won't sue over coronavirus. But where's your discussion, Mr. Collinson, about the idiots in Seattle or Oregon, or the rioters and the insurrection taking place in the streets of Minneapolis and Chicago and Washington, D.C.? There's no mention about those people who are violating social distancing, who are not wearing masks, who are putting the public in jeopardy. So if you're going to mention this about Trump, it's not a valid point. 15,000 people versus tens of thousands of people in metropolitan centers spreading around a virus? What a utter bunch of nonsense. This is the excuse that passes for journalism in this country. It's absolutely pathetic, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just in this country, it's around the world. You look to South Africa, the Mail and Guardian, which was once a decent newspaper, is obsessed with leftist nonsense now and narcissism. It's all about Mail and Guardian. Very disappointing. News 24 has proven to be frequently unreliable. Of course, the state organ of SABC is ludicrous. ENCA, unreliable. You look to the UK, the Guardian is a leftist rag. You look around the world, their Spiegel is a leftist rag. The list goes on and on and on. It's very depressing and very sad. And it's the same in broadcast media. Very few outlets are objective on either side of the aisle. CNN equals CIA. I've never heard that before. Chris White, don't you think the Republicans have better candidates? Rajal, in what respect? Yeah, I think generally speaking that's the case. But what race are you talking about? We'd have to talk about specific race. That's what matters. Okay. Trump Jr. will make a play for office in the future. That's possible. We'll see what happened there. People destroy statues are no better than the Taliban destroyed the Buddhas. Yes, that's correct. That is absolutely correct. But of course, those Buddhas are lost for eternity. We can make another statue, but you can't rebuild those Buddhas. That's so sad. So sad what happened there. Vernon says, are the Democrats sending a weak candidate to this election to work for 2024? I think Buttigieg is not going to get anywhere. The guy's such a fake. He's such a fraud. He runs around painted in the cloak of I'm gay, I'm homosexual. And we only became aware of his homosexuality recently when it became politically convenient for him to expose that or to reveal that he was gay. The things he says are utter nonsense. He's a talking head, just like Obama, not capable of original thought or cogent conversation. That's right. That's what I said. So here he comes. Ooh, you're a homophobe. Nope. I don't give a crap if he's homosexual or if he's a Martian. He's a gas bag and he's full of it. And that's how I feel about Pete Buttigieg. If you ever listen to talk, it's like someone's just putting nickels into the slot machine, feeding the friggin' jukebox so they can play the next song. He's got nothing original. He has no capacity for critical thinking. At least that's what he's shown us to be the case. DT to be president. Aren't reporters bound by more than reporters' creed to deliver news unbiased? Well, it depends on the country. In Botswana, there are restrictions on the press, which would make it difficult for them. Kyle, super chat. Well, thank you so much. There, Kyle's keeping super chats going. Well, thank you so much, Kyle. And that's, as they say, a stripper chat. There's nothing to it. So thank you so much for that kind, generous donation there, Kyle. Appreciate it. Kyle's doing yeoman's work as a moderator on the channel, so I appreciate that as well. But Raz is the rapper who's apparently in charge of Chaz. Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that, Elizabeth. We'll have to check that out. I'm unfamiliar with Raz. Never heard of that person. I know a fair number of rap musicians. Okay, that's not letting me copy. I have to go over here to get to my other chat window so I can copy that. Oh, you said zombie time. I didn't see that, Kyle. Yeah, zombie time. Yeah, it is zombie time. That's pretty cool. Let me get back to where I found the Raz piece at. She put it up here. Am I that far behind? I can't be that far behind in the chat. Huh. I guess I am. Wow. Okay. I'll find it later on afterwards. Sleepy Joe should learn how to zoll. Yeah, I think he is zolling. That explains a lot. Mail and Guardian controlled by George Soros. That's probably the case. Good evening, Colonel. Apologies for being late. Finished work and finally poured a drink and could chill. Well, thanks. Good to see you here, Bradley. I'm happy that you're here. Oh, there's Michelle Jardine. Michelle had also very nice questions and comments in the earlier stream. Very interested in getting the population to wear masks, but Trump refuses to do the same. Well, context, please. Context, please. What are we talking about, Michelle, when you say Trump refuses to do the same? Where? I refuse to wear a mask. You see me wearing a mask right now? When I get in my car, I don't wear a mask. When I walk around and exercise, I don't wear a mask. I simply maintain social distancing. The mask is not going to protect me from someone who's 15 feet away. I can protect myself by simply being 15 feet away. So when you say Trump refused the mask, you need to give it context. That's simply a political slogan. I'm not attacking what Michelle is saying, but that's what the media is running with. Trump refused to wear a mask. Okay. And by the same token, I see South African politicians who wear a mask like this. So their nose is exposed. No effect whatsoever. Anyway, so it has to be in context, ladies and gentlemen. If you're going to say Trump isn't wearing a mask, and that's the point, please give me the context, and I'll say if it's legitimate or not. Because this complete faith in wearing a mask with no scientific data to back it whatsoever is just lunacy. Now, to be fair, in interest of full disclosure, back in January, February, when this stuff was starting and there was a shortage, I expected a shortage of masks. What I didn't know is we'd shipped all of our stock to China because they were lying, and it was already out of China, and it was much worse than they were letting the world know because they were hiding and covering up Wuhan coronavirus. The U.S. stockpiles, many companies shipped them to China because they were buying it. There was a demand. So when it became prevalent here in February, we had a shortage of these things. At that time, I was saying that people shouldn't go out and buy masks because I know how people are. Look what happens to toilet paper and paper towels. It's all gone. So then when first responders, law enforcement, emergency medical technicians, hospital workers need these things, and you wear the mask to protect from infecting others with things that you have. When they have it, or people with active TB, the ones who are always wearing masks, they don't cough droplets on you and infect you. When they need it to protect people who come in under their care or their custodialship, there are no masks, no protective equipment. That's why I was against people running out and buying masks. But I don't believe in the efficacy of it, and I refuse to wear it. The only time I wear a mask is when I'm forced to by hysterical state regulations and rules when I walk into a store. Other than that, I refuse. I just maintain my distance. It's far more effective. Let me get back over here. The DA Coronacast. I've only actually watched it once, Bite Your Ankles. In terms of the presidential race, that's Rajal responding to something he asked earlier. Gosh, I got a lot of chat over here now, so I got to get back and find it. I'm not finding it. Okay, let me get back down here. Sorry about that, Rajal. Quentin. A lot of chat here. Masks are harmful for certain people. That's true. Also, if you're sick, it just simply traps the virus amongst your face from droplets and cough and things like that and moisture. Anyway, I'm not arguing against masks. It's a prudent measure. If you have them and they're clean, they're sanitary, you can change them all the time. But just telling people to wear masks is not the solution. It's a partial one. The WHO doesn't know what they're doing. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Yeah, the World Health Organization, which told us in collaboration with their friends in the Chinese Communist Party in January that the Wuhan coronavirus, or COVID-19, was not transmittable from human to human. Look on their website, ladies and gentlemen. It's on there, unless they've taken it down in the last 2 weeks. But it was on there 2 weeks ago, in which they told us back in January that you could not transmit a human to human. Really? Please explain to 7 million people who've been confirmed cases of it now how they got it. Through thin air? Through the TARDIS? Doctor Who reference for those who missed it. Right. Rachel says, I want to buy cigs, left cigarette ban. Yeah, I agree with you, Rachel. I detest cigarettes, but the cigarette ban is ludicrous and it's irrational and it is only fueling criminal activity in South Africa and it is harming people who are addicted to cigarettes. Shame, shame, shame on the ANC. Still waiting for the wasn't me rap on communist guy. Yeah. For those who missed it in the live stream, I talked about Shaggy. It wasn't me. So we were talking about doing that with the Chinese Communist Party. I'm working on that, guys. I'm serious. I'm actually looking at that, making some sort of spoof of Shaggy singing the song "It Wasn't Me" to the Chinese Communist Party and Wuhan coronavirus. It wasn't me. Anyway, that'll be really fun if we get it done. Feel the same way about the mask. Nunchuku says there might be a situation where you cannot simply maintain. Well, that's true, and you should have a mask available for your use. But the question here wasn't about that. It was a comment by Michelle saying that Trump refuses to wear a mask. I'm not so sure the context. That's what I asked for was context on that, and that's how we got started on that. Keith, there have been hamster tests and mask infection rate down to 15% if you wear one, then cut by a third of everyone else. If everyone else wears one, okay. How do they get those masks on hamsters, man? That must have been a really tiny mask, I used to have hamsters when I was a kid. It was the 5G network. Yeah, that's what it was. It was the Huawei 5G network. That's what it was. Bobby B, good to see you. Sympathetic. Oh, you were in the stream earlier. Thanks for coming along for that as well. Sympathetic to people who want to wear masks, but the state requiring them makes me want to say, yeah, exactly. Telling people they have to do things is very different than recommending they do things. You tend to get a better response rate if you recommend rather than declare something to be the case. There's new credible data showing that Crohn is a vascular disease. And I've heard all sorts of things about it. The jury is out on these things right now. The bottom line is that Wuhan coronavirus is not the Black Plague. But this is how it was presented to us, ladies and gentlemen, by successive governments, international organizations around the world, and it is not the Black Plague. It is highly infectious. It is dangerous, especially if you have an underlying immunocompromised condition, such as type 2 diabetes, hypertension, high blood pressure, HIV, tuberculosis. If you have a condition that compromises your immune system, you are especially vulnerable. But if you don't, the odds of you getting sick from it are very low and dying from it are infinitesimal. And it's been overblown and we've destroyed the world's economy and created social unrest. To what end? 620,000 people will die this year of malaria. Well, they died in 2019 of malaria. 800,000 from suicide, 900,000 from HIV/AIDS, 1.5 million from tuberculosis. This thing is nowhere near any of them. It will surpass, it appears, in the course of a year, malaria. But we didn't shut the world down from malaria. Why? I would argue because of the 5 million people who contract malaria and the 620,000 people who die each year, the vast majority are in tropical Africa and nobody gives a crap. The world doesn't care. But this is something you see in your neighborhoods, your nursing homes, where your parents and grandparents are at. So people are frightened for what they can't see and they can't logically process in their heads. Chris White, what's your opinion on Rand Paul and John Case's terms of leadership? Elizabeth, I love how Trump has simply moved Fauci out of the spotlight when his involvement. Also, his contradictory stuff. You follow what Fauci said. He's contradicted himself all along the way. And instead of just being honest and saying, listen, we didn't know. We didn't have enough data. This is our best recommendation. Go with it. And then a month later, well, we were proven wrong. The reason we did this is for this reason, and we believe it accomplished this. Well, we were wrong. We're going to change tack now. No, he's just like, well, this is how it is. You have to do what I say. Yes, it's only a medical opinion, but medical matters more than anything else, so you must do what I say. And then when he changes his opinion 3 weeks later, well, this is our current position on this. Pay no attention to what we said in the past. This is the problem with Dr. Fauci. No disrespect for the man. He's had quite an accomplished career, but he's missing the plot in many ways. Trump did wear a mask at some point during his car factory visit. Yes, I saw him wearing a mask in many places, so that's why I was asking the context of it. Excuse me. Okay, so I got that already. About Rajald asked the question, what's my opinion on Rand Paul and John Kasich in terms of leadership? John Kasich was my governor in Ohio, and he was a congressman. Didn't represent me in Ohio, but he was a congressman in Ohio. And when I saw him run in 2016 for president, I was incredibly disappointed. His term as governor of Ohio was a good period for Ohio, but I think that was in spite of John Kasich. His predecessors were far better governors, and I'm not particularly impressed with him. He is not a conservative. He claims to be a conservative. He's not a conservative. He's just someone who's a Republican, who's, as they say in the U.S., a rhino, Republican in name only, and finds himself associated with all sorts of things that are not even remotely conservative. It's okay to be a conservative and have liberal views about things, but when the majority or preponderance of what you believe in is to the left of the center, then you're not a conservative anymore. And to claim to be one is dishonest. And that's where John Kasich is. Very disappointed in his presidential run and his comments since the election. Can do without him. Rand Paul. Rand Paul is in many respects a true libertarian. A little bit too far out for me. The guy thinks, pretty much anything should be allowed. But he is a true conservative when it comes to issues like national security and finance and debt and things like that. So yeah, Rand Paul is a really good guy. I would vote for Rand Paul for president. Yeah, absolutely, no question about it. His father, Ron Paul, never going to get my vote, but Rand Paul would get it. By the way, Rand is not based on South African currency, by the way. It's short for Randall. His first name is Randall, just in case anybody was curious. Let's see. Black plague is racist. Yeah. Well, thank you, Albono. Then what are those black pustules? I guess we call it the purple plague because they were more a purple color. USA government held laid terrorist charged against Fauci. Oh, okay. Whoa, what's that? Dietrich, where'd that come from? COVID-19, in your opinion, is just a New World Order test run. Well, Dietrich Busha, thank you very kindly for that super chat donation there. Very kind of you. Now, it's going to pop up on my screen, but it hasn't done yet. I guess see how this goes. But anyway, thank you so much for that super chat. That's very kind of you. Yeah, so I'll get back to your chat and just your super chat in just a moment. I'm trying to figure out what the government laid terrorist charges. I haven't heard about them laying terrorist charge against Fauci, the Gates, and the Foundation, a few more. Somebody said that, but I haven't seen that. Bobby B talking about the virus. Dan working the same way that the president will never be seen eating live on TV. Maybe the same. There it is. There's Dietrich Buscha's donation. A 70 Rand super chat. Thank you so much, sir. Vielen Dank. Das war aber nett von Ihnen. Das Geld ist sehr nett von Ihnen. Danke sehr. Servus in Südafrika. Yes, that's correct pronunciation. That's not Afrikaans, not Südafrika. I was saying German, Südafrika. All right, so, and that's what always gets me confused when I try to speak Afrikaans and I see South Africa. I'm inclined to say Südafrika and not Zuid-Afrika. So now you guys understand why. Okay, Dr. Fauci. Yeah, you guys are getting on Dr. Fauci here. And there's Dietrich's super chat. Thank you so much for that, Dietrich. I really appreciate it. It's kind of cool. By the way, it's almost like a game show in some respects, having the super chat. I really like it. Thank you guys for donating. It's very kind of you. Anyone else would like to, feel free. You're welcome to do it, but you do have that opportunity now. I cannot do memberships yet, as I have to reach a certain threshold of subscribers, and I'm not there yet. Once I get there, I will make the membership available. I have lots of time to think about what that membership will involve, because I know a lot of people ask about being members of the site, and we'll see how it goes. Purple plague is also racist. Oh, there's a South African or a Zuid African capitalist party supporter there in Sean. He says Purple Cow Lives Matters. Okay, that's true. Yes, Matt J. Seattle is getting interesting. It's getting actually bizarre, if nothing else. William Vanderveld always found the German language a little bit scary. Now, why is that, William? What do you find scary about it? Okay. All right, I'm caught up in the chat. I think I'm caught up in the super chat. So now let me go ahead. Oh, look at this. Inside my Streamlabs, it's telling me who's done the super chat. It wasn't doing that before, so thank you. So Kyle, Dietrich, and I think there's another one there before. Quentin was the first one. Yeah, Quentin, then Kyle, and Dietrich. Thank you all so much for the super chats. All right, so now let's talk about the topics that came up earlier, and I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget them. That's not the one I want to talk about. Oh, yeah, so Dan Verkman asked a question about what's going on in the world. Is it an effort to keep Africa down? In other words, the international financial situation, the Bretton Woods institutions. I think that's where Dan was going. Do external actors seek to keep Africa down? Is it in their advantage to keep Africa not educated? We were having a conversation about illiterate literates. In other words, people have education, but they don't have the capacity to think critically or to live in any world other than a world of victimization. Gosh, that is a serious curve going on there. I bet you women pay for that stuff or they try to do their hair, but that's just happening naturally for me today. Wow. Anyway, so yeah, to Dan's question, there may be certain countries that find it in their interest to do things that prevent African countries from moving up the value chain when it comes to vertical integration. So for instance, if you are Zambia and you're producing copper and you're simply shipping it to China, rather than processing the ore and smelting it in Zambia and producing copper products and then shipping it out, you're not further up the value chain. And so it's in China's interest not to have that work take place in Zambia. They prefer to do it in China because it creates employment in China. So yes, that's true. If you're talking about cocoa in the Ivory Coast in Ghana, where very few people take cocoa and turn it into anything other than cocoa, which they ship out of the country around the world. And hence you have companies like Nestle and Hershey Chocolate and Toblerone and Ritter Sport that produce fabulous chocolates, not even mentioning the Belgian chocolates here or Swiss chocolates. So all these people take chocolate and turn it into something else and move up the value chain of the value. That is not necessarily in the interest of those companies to do that in Africa, but it is in the interest of Africans. I don't think those companies are holding Africa back, but there are certain countries that do find it advantageous. But from my perspective, you can be a Western investor. You can invest in the Ivory Coast into, say, a chocolate producing factory, come up with a good chocolate, a good marketing plan, a good advertising plan, sell it, make it popular, make it catchy, and people will buy it. And then you can profit from it wherever you're from, whether it's Switzerland, South Africa, Singapore, the United States. And Africans can also profit from it. But somehow that translation doesn't happen in a lot of instances. And that's part of the challenge holding back a lot of Africa. You can't simply be a commodities producer in the 21st century. You can't produce some commodities, but if all you produce are commodities, by and large, then you're always going to be low on the value chain of vertical integration of the value chain of where you add money. So for instance, if you look at Apple makes all of its telephones, its iPhones in China. Every single one of them is produced in China. Okay, so what? Well, the Chinese make money on every iPhone, all the components, but the amount of money the Chinese make off an iPhone is like this. What Apple makes when it marks up through marketing and through sales and through retail editions and distribution, it does this. And suddenly your iPhone cost $1,200. Not $200 that the Chinese got paid to make it, but the $1,200 that Apple gets. And they have huge margins. Apple traditionally has a profit margin between 65 and 75%. Microsoft usually is at 68, 70% margins for its software and its services. Think about that. And then people whinge about petrol stations where the margins are 2 or 3% at most, or grocery stores where in a good day they're lucky to make 4 or 5% margins on the stuff that they sell. The real money is made by tech companies with no underlying basis, simply huge margins. Yep, there you go. So Dan Workman, I think I've answered that question from earlier. If I didn't, let me know. I was trying to. Let me see what else we got over here. And then there was also UCD. If you're still here, if you're still in the house, say something so we can get back to your questions from earlier, because you were asking some very good questions. I'm trying to remember if I wrote them down. Let's see. So Stephen Crowder. Yeah, Crowder's fun. He gets a little crazy. Okay. Yes, it is to keep Africa down, but only to use our resources and use Africa for the gateway to the One Belt, One Road. For China, perhaps. Quentin says, what's that? Something just happened. Neville Bonner, I'll say Bonner, I don't know, or should I say Boner? I think it's supposed to be Boner. Just subscribe. Well, thank you for joining the channel. Really appreciate it. All right, so back to what we're saying on here. So we've got Elizabeth saying it's to keep Africa down. I'm saying yes, that's in China's interest, the One Belt, One Road. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, for those who don't realize, the One Belt, One Road is a brilliant scheme by China. What you do is you convince the world that it's in the interest of the world to have this massive infrastructure to ship goods around the world. Except around the world is not the intent. The intent is to ship resources to China and then use the same infrastructure to ship that stuff back around the world and sell it at the higher margins up the value chain. China's trying to move up the value chain with resources into products and services and sell those. Now, they loan money to countries that can't afford to borrow money, like Kazakhstan or Djibouti or Zambia, to contribute to airports and ports, facilities, railroads, and such like that the Chinese will use to profit for themselves. Now, a lot of people say America and China are competing, and isn't America upset that the Chinese have built a railroad in Kenya and they're building it through Uganda down to Rwanda? And my answer to them is that no. As long as it's standard rail gauge, I don't care. Let them build what they want. As long as it's safe and reliable, we'll be happy to let the Chinese fund that, and we will use it to ship our goods in and out of those countries. Anyway, but China's doing it for their own benefit, not for these countries' benefit. Now, they will get some tertiary benefit off it, don't get me wrong, but that is the point. Okay, so Quentin says, have you ever had a homestead? I follow some people on YouTube, North Carolina, live in 10 acres of property and eat from the land. It's our goal going forward here in the U.S. No, I've never had a homestead, but I did live when I was in high school on a farm in rural Appalachian, southeastern Ohio, and we grew our own vegetables. And I milked the cows, and we had chickens to collect eggs from. So we produced a lot of the food we ate on our own. But we also did grocery shopping as well. And I went to public school. So we were off the grid, but that was just because people couldn't pay bills. We got back on the grid at some point. But yeah, for a while, fetched water from a cistern, used an outhouse, or as you guys say in South Africa, an outdoor privy, and collected eggs and picked up the potatoes and the tomatoes and harvested them, and then also milked cows. but not really a homestead. That was 17 acres in southeastern Ohio. Yeah, let's see what else we got here. Bobby B says, I paid $100 for a Samsung 3 years ago and it's still kicking. Yeah, I have a Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus right here, which I paid far too much money for. And it is now going on 3 years old, and it has been used extensively. When I started doing prepared videos for my YouTube channel, this was what I used for the prepared videos because it was a far better camera than the one on my laptop. Unfortunately, the autofocus isn't working, so eventually I switched to my Logitech webcam for those. But this is what I used, and so this thing has produced probably a terabyte of data at this point, and it's still kicking. Although I would like a new one, but they're expensive. So, so if you want a super chat, feel free. No, but seriously, yeah, Samsung is amazing. South Korean technology, excellent. South Korea had a protected economy for a long time. It still does in some respects, but in many aspects, it is a market-based economy now, and it's world class. Elizabeth said, so frustrating with my South Africans, they can't see what's going on. Chinese Communist Party built factories, roads, harbors, and then when the country can't pay for them, they claim it. Not to mention that, why do the Chinese have exclusive economic zones just for China? What's that all about? Why is that even possible? How does that get to be the case? That's very disturbing, ladies and gentlemen. Very disturbing. Right. So we're coming up on nearly an hour here, folks, 56 minutes. I will go longer if you'd like me to. My intent is to go an hour, 30 minutes max. We'll see how that goes. Still got a pretty good audience in here, people listening. And we haven't really gotten to the stuff that UCD wanted to talk about from the stream earlier today. If UCD is still there and comes back, then I'll discuss it. Otherwise, I'm not going to focus on that. They were good topics, but I need UCD's help to remember what they were. Microsoft overpriced. Yeah, Microsoft is also annoying. Case in point, I came to my computer this morning, which I put in sleep mode, and it was rebooted, and everything I worked on, fortunately, if it was Microsoft Office Suite, it was saved because it saved it, but if it was anything else, I lost it. I had a couple text files open, lost everything, because without my permission, even though it says you cannot update my operating system, Microsoft, once again, stole my bandwidth to download my data and put it on his computer, and then rebooted without my permission in the middle of the night. And so I came back, and here we are. Now, if you're downloading video or you're uploading video at night because you have a slow connection, you're trying to do that, that's incredibly frustrating. And where Microsoft gets off doing that, I don't know, because I've told them they can't do it, but they still do it. Don't forget to mention French involvement. Oh, French involvement in West Africa. Tion, yeah, that was the question. Yeah, so, yeah, okay. Yeah, Tion, okay. I think you turned up the French in West Africa. Thank you. French in West Africa, I'll get back to that in a second. Luis Rossmann is a brilliant man. Louis Rossmann, Marathon made in Africa. Really? Where's that made at? In Tanzania? China does everything for the benefit of the Chinese Communist Party. As far as I can tell, their citizens, the benefits their citizens gain are unintended. That is correct. It is unintended. What do we got going on there? What happened? Kyle, super chat. What's Kyle got to say here? Elizabeth, Elizabeth gave us stripper chat. Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. I didn't even hear it. It didn't even pop up there. It's Elizabeth, a 50 Rand super chat. Well, thank you so much for that. It's stripper super chat. And then, that's okay. That was Elizabeth's ding the first time, and now there's Kyle's somehow. No, it did Elizabeth backwards. Well, it's software. Figured out. On here on the chat, Elizabeth came in with the super chat first, but Kyle was recognized first. And now, anyway, whatever the case is. But Elizabeth, thank you for the super chat. Nothing there. I can't make out what your avatar is. It looks like it's flowers of some sort, but it looks lovely. Kyle says, what do you think of the right to repair? Okay. What are we talking about, Kyle? You don't have to super chat again. Just tell me what we're talking about specifically. I'll get back to your question, Kyle, because I'm a little lost. Maybe I have a senior moment here. It's, the gray beard is actually genuine today. Bradley Cook says, choose a Linux distro. It's the way to go. Yeah, Linux is a good operating system. Here it is 20 years later, based off of Unix, and it's still 25 years later. It's still floating around. Miss Windows 7 in my laptop was still, shame, Sean. Yanni, welcome, Yanni. Thanks for the stream. I am off. I had a few late nights working. Super chats are sticky up at the top now, by the way. Yeah, thank you. I see that, Yanni. I worked on that because I really wanted to recognize people, so I figured it out, but I've got like zombies, so I have to figure out something else to put in there, although the zombies seem to be popular. Thanks, Yanni. Appreciate it. I didn't know you were here because you didn't super chat, man. Just teasing. Quentin says, cheers. Okay, okay, so he's out of here. Welcome to new members. Yes, welcome to everybody who's new. And then that's the end of the chat there, so I'm caught up. Okay, so, yeah, Kyle, I don't understand your question, my friend. What do you think of right to repair? I'm drawing a blank on that, so please tell me. I know you're there, Kyle. Oh, so there is right to repair bill. The farmers also fighting it. Are you talking about the ranching bill that's taking place here in the States, Kyle? Is that the one you're talking about, in which ranchers have an issue? If that's what you're talking about, I'm familiar with that, but I'm not a subject matter expert on it. I did research it because I was, what's that? Something came up there. Oh, John Van Vuren just subscribed. Well, thank you for being a subscriber. Zombies chasing people, man. I love it. And he's running across the Mahalisberg. You see that? Look at him climbing Mahalisberg each time. That's hilarious. Maybe I will leave that up there. 9 likes. What's going on there? Are you serious, Sean? Oh, now that's not good. What's going on? Am I not entertained today? Is this not informative? Do I have to attack Cyril Ramaphosa to get some likes? I'll do it. Anyway, but let's talk about something else here very quickly since, right to repair tractors equipment. No, I'm not familiar with it, Kyle. I'm not familiar with it at all. I'll have to take a look into that, so I can't offer an opinion on it. So my apologies for that. That's something I'm not familiar with. Interesting. So this is some disturbing news from Yorona FM, which is a radio station in Gaborone. Breaking news, Gaborone Private Hospital has been shut down until further notice. Anyone who's been to the hospital from June 8th to June 12th have been advised to self-quarantine for 14 days. They've been advised to call the following number for further advice. I love how these folks in the Commonwealth misuse the word advice and advise. That's advise. That means, to give advice. But to get advice is A-D-V-I-C, advice. Anyway, but I mean, it's a Commonwealth spelling of things, kind of like the English and you all misspell color. There's no U in it. That's a French thing. Anyway, but so there's panic in Botswana now. I'm getting feedback from folks saying that they're very concerned. Oh, we've got another subscriber, Letu Ngubani. Welcome. Did I pronounce your name correctly? Ngubani? I like that. That's a cool surname, Ngubani. Really like that. I'm going to keep saying Ngubani. That's pretty cool. So there's panic in Botswana. I'm hearing from people in Botswana that they're concerned that the government is going to re-implement the lockdown measures and go back to more restrictive measures as a consequence of apparently 14 or 18 new cases. Botswana has been locked at about 40 confirmed cases of COVID-19 now for a long time. And apparently there's been a number of cases jumping from this hospital, most likely. So I hope that the government of President Masisi does not become hysterical and overreact. You are going to see more cases of COVID-19 as more testing is done and more people go about their business. That's just a fact, ladies and gentlemen. The hysterical reaction to it is unnecessary and it's counterproductive. You're going to cause disastrous impact in Botswana's economy if you go back to the restrictive measures that were in place just a short while ago. So please don't do that. Please don't do that. Yeah, I really appreciate if folks in Botswana don't lose their minds. Albona says his shows 61 likes. Well, that's awesome. Thank you, Albona. I appreciate that. Elizabeth, my thoughts on the sanctions against Chinese Communist Party from the U.S. I think the sanctions that Trump was trying to put in place are long overdue for China. China is not an honest broker under the World Trade Organization. They have habitually violated intellectual property. They've committed industrial espionage. They have put up formal and informal barriers to prevent products and services from entering their country. And they have forced those who wish to operate in the country to do things that are contrary to our values in the United States and violate our own Constitution. So, for instance, Google is in collusion with the Chinese Communist Party to limit search terms in China and prevent the Chinese to know from what's actually taking place in their country. Hence, it was so important when the Wuhan coronavirus, COVID-19, first broke out in either late November or certainly by the early part of December, when the government was covering it up and Chinese doctors courageously found social media to get the word out and warn the world about this. Otherwise, we probably would never known about it until February, the way things were going. Then they moved to shut them down. Companies like Google are in collusion. Google, of course, is the owner of YouTube these days, but they're in collusion with the Chinese Communist Party. But they're not alone. Facebook is in the same boat, and the list goes on and on. A lot of the big corporate names that we know are in collusion, and they do things that make the Chinese Communist Party happy so that they don't lose that opportunity in China, either for production, for export, or for domestic consumption, but more likely for export. They don't want to jeopardize their exports out of China because they moved there because of a large industrial base that was developing and inexpensive labor. Well, China's labor is no longer inexpensive, ladies and gentlemen. It's quite expensive for labor in China these days, and it's finding itself increasingly uncompetitive in the world marketplace. China, so I think Trump sanctions are necessary. I'm not a fan of sanctions, but when someone continues to break the rules and play unfairly, you have to send a message. And as Trump has shown, he's quite flexible. He'll pull back on those things at the first sign that somebody's playing nice. And he's actually done that. He lessened the sanctions against China. But they're long overdue, Elizabeth. And we had the collaboration and collusion between successive presidents all the way from Bush Sr. with Tiananmen Square, being quiet over that, to Clinton and his endless years of collaboration and selling our technical secrets to the Chinese to raise money for his campaign, and one of the greatest scandals in U.S. political history, covered up by the press and still not talked about to this day. One of the reasons why North Korea has the ability to launch intercontinental ballistic missiles is because they got technology from the Chinese, which was given to them illegally by folks in the Clinton administration. So then you have that. Then you have Bush, who's silent on China's misbehavior. And then you have Obama, who's in collusion with China. And all of these presidents have done this because they're all part of an elite that is more interested in elites than it is in national security and our national interest. Is that a conspiracy theory? Maybe. All right. So, yeah, nice group, Hendo. Thanks. A lot of good chat here tonight. Kyle's going to send me a few articles. Thank you, Kyle. I'll get more familiar with that topic and then give you my views on it after we take a look at it. Sean says, not common knowledge, but the South African Air Force headquarters in Pretoria, known as the HAT, is also closed due to the corona cases. So let's hope the Salvation Army does not take South Africa. I thought that the South African Air Force Base headquarters wasn't in Pretoria, but was located just south of Pretoria at the airfield there. What's the name of it? I can't think off the top of my head. It's where the Guptas landed. They get their special privileges to land there. I'm drawing a blank right now, but I know the airfield. I've been there. Get you online, likes the stream. Well, that's excellent. Thank you. Bradley, even if it wasn't closed, we would be scared of the Salvation Army. Quentin says, everyone in the world will get SARS. The spread rates delayed the cost of the world economy. Yeah, there you go. And then Bobby B, we've been making China wealthy for decades. Bad move on our part. I agree. Not that we should discriminate against China. If they want to follow the rules, that's fine. Labor is cheaper in Vietnam than China. That's true. Absolutely true. And labor on a dollar per hour basis is cheaper in Southern Africa, but the labor productivity is abysmal in South Africa and Southern Africa. And that's why all the textile companies left after the multi-fiber agreement expired in January of 2005. The Chinese and Taiwanese companies that owned most of the textile factories in South Africa, Lesotho, Swaziland, and Botswana, decamped en masse from Southern Africa back to China or Taiwan to produce textiles because they no longer had the artificial advantage of the multi-fiber agreement. Once that expired, they no longer had limits on shipping their goods to Western economies, and they no longer had the advantage of assembling clothing in third-party countries. So that went away, and all the jobs went away with it. Crazy. Wonderboom. Is it Wonderboom? No, it's Waterkloof. Waterkloof is one thing. Wonderboom is northwest of Pretoria, and Waterkloof is southwest of Pretoria. Yeah, Waterkloof is the one that I'm thinking of. Wonderboom. I've been to Wonderboom. Yeah, I was out there to take a look at what the Paramount Group was doing with an amazing aircraft. I don't know if you guys ever saw it. I'll try to look for it while we're chatting here and show you this picture. It's an amazing aircraft. It's unfortunate that people aren't buying it, but it's got military and civilian use, also for park rangers. Fantastic. I actually did a video. Actually, I could probably find it quicker this way. I did not a video, but I did an article on LinkedIn about it from my trip there a couple years ago. That's when I met the former commander of the South African Air Force, General Hakano, who's a fantastic gentleman, and he was wonderful and quite a great host. And one of the things I did is went out with the Paramount Group and took a look at this aircraft. I'm trying to find it right now as I share this story with you, but I have to look up my work on LinkedIn, and articles is what it's under. Excuse me. So don't mind the scrolling. That's just my mouse in the background trying to find the article. That's not it. I'm still getting there. Come on. Almost there. It's an Afrikaans article. The coup in Zimbabwe. Oh, come on. I know it's here. Is it that far back? Is that long ago I wrote this article? Oh, my goodness. I'm not finding it. There it is. All right. There you go. All right. It took me a while to get there. Here you go. All right. It's the Arlac. Yeah, that's the plane. Yeah, this is something. This is a Wonderboom. I'll show you this picture in just a moment. Just got to save it here. All right. And I did this article almost 3 years ago. This summer will be 3 years ago. I saw that's an amazing aircraft. It's a shame. It can do anti-poaching operations. It can do tons of things. All right, you guys still with me? Did I lose anybody? Okay, we're still there. So let me pull this up. You're going to hear some clicking here. Don't mind the clicking. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. The great and powerful Oz. That's right. So this is an interesting South African product, entirely designed, engineered, built in South Africa for production, and they're amazing. There you go. All right. And that's the article I wrote on LinkedIn a couple years ago. It's called An Interesting African Entrant. And that's the Arclight. It's an amazing little aircraft, does some really cool stuff. Actually, here, do that. All right, so yeah, cool. You guys should check that out sometime. I can make the link available if anyone wants to read that article. In fact, I'll do that now so that you've got it. guess that's a bit of shameless self-promotion, maybe we could say. But whatever the case is. So this is from LinkedIn. You don't have to be a LinkedIn member to go read this, I don't think. So feel free to go check it out if you like. But here's the link on that, on a South African product. And this was at Wonderboom, not at Waterkloof. Waterkloof was the place I was thinking of. So thank you guys for sharing that. So there's the link. All right, let me catch up again on the chat over here. Nunchaku says, very informative, sharing ideas. Much appreciated. What's my pleasure. Wonderboom Airport is where mercenaries meet en route to coups further. Keith Alderson, I can neither confirm nor deny that conspiracy claim that you've posted in the chat. I suggest, no, no, I don't know. Maybe not. Dietrich Buscher said the first qualified Gripen pilot in South Africa was a lady. Yeah, that's true. A white female pilot, if I'm not mistaken. I can picture her face, but can't remember her name because I reported on it when it happened. Paramount shut down. During the lockdown, Tian, or before the lockdown? That's interesting. I like the plane. Stable design. Yeah, it's fantastic. This is an amazing aircraft. I hope that if Paramount in fact is, whoa, somebody got rid of a message here I was trying to read. But if Paramount did shut down, I hope that that whoever had this, because this was a subsidiary of Paramount, one of the sons of one of the guys that was involved in the creation of the Ruivog, one of the designers for the Ruivog was with Paramount, and he carved out this company, a subsidiary for his son, and they got to experiment with designs, and they came up with this aircraft. It's an amazing little aircraft. So hopefully they're still around. No, permanently. Yeah, but Tian, permanently, but because of COVID, during COVID, or was it before it? Because I've not seen a notification that Paramount shut down. It's a bore. Yeah, it's pretty cool. If our government goes ape on South Africans, can we call on USA to help us? I don't know. That's a question a lot of people have been asking, Elizabeth, and I think it depends entirely on who the president of the United States is. And even if it is, say, someone who's sympathetic like Trump, I don't know if it's going to happen or not. The problem is that for folks who don't know this, those outside South Africa, the rest of the world doesn't see South Africa for what it is today. What's happening in South Africa is not something that the world knows. One of the reasons why I do this channel, and the Stray Voltage streams have been heavily focused on South Africa, but not exclusively. My content is all of Africa, geopolitics, and things around the world, with a heavy focus on Africa, of course. But my Stray Voltage live streams like this have been heavily focused on South Africa because I'm trying to help spread a message about South Africa. People watching the stream are not simply in South Africa, and they're not simply South Africans around the world. There are other interested parties who are watching the stream, and the audience is growing. We're getting close to 3,000 subscribers in just a couple of months. It's pretty cool. So and we've added subscribers in the midst of the stream. So thank those folks for joining us. Even if they weren't watching the stream, they might have just been watching the content on the channel. So thank you for subscribing. We added some subscribers today. But I'm trying to get the message out there about what's happening in South Africa, and this is one way to do it. Pity we never sold a single Ruivog. That is a pity because it's not as good as the Apache, especially the Apache Longbow, which continued in development, so had a huge advantage over the Ruivog. But the Ruivog was an amazing attack helicopter and remains an amazing attack helicopter. And with a little bit of time spent in engineering, it could be brought up to even the best of standards now. Not that it's far from them. But the closest they ever came was the Turks were going to buy an attack helicopter, and they were trying to use the Ruivog as an excuse to get the Italians to come up with a better deal on their attack helicopter. And that was the closest they ever came to selling, which is really sad. USA blocked the sales of Ruivog. How so, Hendo? Where do we block the sales of Ruivog? Are you talking about during apartheid or after apartheid? And how do we block the sale? If Finland wants to buy Ruivogs, how do we block them? I'm not so sure how we do that. Unless a bank... Now, for instance, Namibia was purchasing Chinese jet fighters from Beijing, and they were routing money through a bank in New York. We put a stop to that because we controlled that bank, and we wouldn't allow them to do it. But we can't just say people can't buy it. USA has their own problems at the moment. I don't think South Africa is something they're really worried about. Listen, Choco Gamer, even if the USA had no problems, let's go back to January. We never have no problems, but we didn't have COVID-19. Trump was riding a huge red wave onto a tsunami of a victory in presidential race and also taking the House before COVID-19 hysteria hit, and now this nonsense with this what's going on now. So even at that point, South Africa wasn't high on Trump's or the White House or the Congress's radar. It's not a question of other problems. These other issues will be resolved at least well enough that they'll be tamped down. But it's a question of how important South Africa is. And during apartheid, yes, we certainly worked to discourage other countries from buying the Ruivog. That is true, absolutely true, Hendo. Dietrich says, ask a very good question. If you have a president that lies to the UN, why should the world care about South Africa? That's a good point. Initially, Ruvalk was superior to it was, Hendo, that is correct. In the early stages of the Apache helicopter development and fielding, the Ruvalk was a superior attack helicopter. It had better armament, it had better capacity and longer range, if I remember correctly. But the Apache helicopter is the premier attack helicopter in the world, and particularly longbow. Nothing could ever compete with longbow. Listen, Apache longbow, a pilot can sit there and just fly the helicopter, and it'll fire 8 Hellfires simultaneously at 8 different targets and hit them. That's incredible. And that's 20 years ago. Where it's at today, I can't even talk about that. Amazing aircraft. Bite Your Ankle says Trump 2020 now more than ever. Well, in the vein of that thought, here's a Trump 2020 hat just for everybody's viewing. There you go. Viewing pleasure. With the 45 on one side, the Stars and Stripes on the other side, and Keep America Great on this side. So there you go. And that's the hat that I got recently, for those who didn't know about it. Right. Okay, so back over here. Where are we at? Let me just run through again. So far today, just so we give people credit, Quentin gave a 14 Rand super chat. Kyle gave a 14 Rand super chat. Kyle gave another 14 Rand super chat. Dietrich gave a 70. Elizabeth gave a 50. And Kyle gave a 14. And I didn't answer Kyle's question fully, so I feel bad about that. But Kyle is going to get me the information so I can research it and get him a view on that. Sean says the Ruvalk was ahead of its time, but the tech is old now. Like Chris is saying, it can be updated, but the project, like anything, is shrouded in corruption. Yeah, that's exactly right. The Ruvalk, the baseline of the Ruvalk could be the basis for a new attack helicopter, but if you just took what was produced in the 80s, in the early 90s, today, it's so far behind. The Apache is just incredible, ladies and gentlemen. It's just a matter of record there. There's no disputing it. Not just because I'm a proud American, but it is absolutely an amazing attack helicopter. Let's see what else. So I missed something here. Elizabeth says, she's talking to Kosh, she says, I think the rest of the country is worse off than what they're telling us. The ANC has lost control, hence the jealousy of the Western Cape. Yeah, the rest of the country is worse, but the press isn't reporting that. They're also reporting police brutality, Sandef abuses, covering up what happened to Collins Kosa and several other people in South African custody. And by the way, now I hate to bring up the sad news in this tragic event, but are people aware of what happened in KZN to the Austrian? They're calling him German, but he's an Austrian. This is the gentleman, Edward Neumeier. Have you heard about that? Just horrific what's happening there. I think I've actually got a picture of the gentleman with his family. Really, really sad what happened there. I'm trying to find. There he is. Okay, I got him. Okay. This is Edward Neumeister, who is an Austrian who immigrated to South Africa back in the 1970s. He's married twice. That's his second. That's his partner there, Margaret. And at his German-style restaurant in KZN, about 70 kilometers from Durban, someone, now bear in mind the restaurant's closed because it's lockdown, and so they're not open for business. But at his restaurant, this thug came and waited for him to go feed his dogs in the morning. And when he came out, attacked him with either a knife or a panga, and apparently must have severed an artery from what we know. He fell to the ground bleeding profusely. The attacker demanded money, went into the kitchen, broke in and started strangling this woman. And this man, mortally wounded, managed to lift himself up, struggle back into the door to plead for the idiot to leave the woman alone, was able to interject himself into it. She got away, and then this bastard butchered this man, who by all accounts was the perfect gentleman, a wonderful pillar of society in that community. And his daughter, from the press reports, he's so badly mangled and mutilated that people couldn't even recognize him from the number of stab wounds and how his body was cut up. This sickening state of affairs in South Africa is beyond comprehension. Now, this happens in the very same time frame that the police minister is telling a gathering of people that there are, because of the lockdown and police presence, there have been no robberies in South Africa. I don't know what planet he's living on. But he's not alone. Sickening, sickening, sickening. What a tragic story. 67 years old, hacked to death in front of his partner, in front of his German-themed restaurant in South Africa. Such a sad state of affairs. Born in Salzburg, so he's a true Tyrolean, or not Tyrolean, but a true Salzburger, and a true Austrian in that spirit, although they keep calling him a German. I don't think they know the distinction between Österreich and Deutschland. But anyway, he's an Österreicher and lived in South Africa for decades. And it's such a sad, tragic thing. But it's not alone. For those who don't know, I also had the picture of this sad situation with this 28-year-old woman who apparently was dating a married man and was stabbed multiple times and then left hanging in a tree. Her body, her corpse was left hanging in a tree. 28 years old, 8 months pregnant, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. 8 months pregnant. Miss Pula. What is wrong with South Africa? And what is wrong with the elected officials in this country that they refuse to acknowledge this level of horrific violence and crime that takes place in this country on a daily basis? It is sad and disgusting what is happening here. And I'm sorry for South Africans. I don't mean to rain on your parade or to speak ill of South Africa. It's a wonderful place, but this sort of nonsense needs to stop. Absolutely needs to stop. The world needs to know about this. The world doesn't know about it because the ANC effectively denies it and then pretends that it's race-based. This girl's not white. She's black. And based on her surname, she's a Botswana speaker. And she's butchered. Now, she's probably butchered for personal reasons. It wasn't about a robbery. It most likely, honestly, was about the fact that it had something to do with the fact that she was 8 months pregnant with her boyfriend's child. Her boyfriend was married. We don't know. That's likely the case of it. But this gentleman here, they attempted to rob his restaurant, which has been closed for 3 months, to get money. What money were they expecting to find? And what do these people think? That the money is just hoarded and kept in safes and hidden locations and homes? And he was murdered for that. Not just murdered. You can't just kill the man. You got to butcher him in a frenzy. And of course, there have been no arrest. Surprise, surprise. Thank you, Police Minister Mbekitsile. Yes, no arrest. The man who told the country that because of the increased police presence, there are no cash in transit heists taking place and no robberies in South Africa. What an utter load of horse manure, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, she was a beautiful woman, Bobby B. A beautiful woman, 28 years of age. What a sad tragedy. What a sad tragedy. And she was 8 months pregnant. It's a double homicide, ladies and gentlemen. Black lives matter? Really? Do they really matter in South Africa? Or is this virtue signaling and pontificating in the African National Congress and the Economic Freedom Fighters just a bunch of nonsense, which is what it is? And I call them out on it. If Black lives matter, where are your voices when people are murdered in the streets like this beautiful young lady? If Black lives matter, why isn't she high on your radar screen? And why? And now the reason we know about her is because she's very attractive. But for the people who are not as attractive or as appealing, like the UCT student who was butchered last year in Cape Town, what about all those faces that aren't seen? What about all the farmers who are butchered and their children and their spouses on farms in the rural areas? Anyway, didn't mean to get into murder and discussion, folks, but I just wanted to point this out. This is a really, really heartbreaking story. I talked about both of these cases in videos, and it's just really a shame. Anyway, so sorry about that. I just thought I'd share that. We talked about it before the stream ended. How's the bid for ambassador going? These atrocities, according to Cyril, do not happen. He's a lying president. Indeed, he is, Dietrich. Bite your ankles. A cop killed a family of 6, got bail for $5,000. 3 cops got arrested today for robbing another cop and his wife. Cops arrested for smuggling. SA is lawless. Sele says there's no problem. Yeah, he blames it on alcohol. Everything's alcohol's fault. The 300 bad cops have been arrested for selling cigarettes and alcohol, which they've confiscated because they're criminals. The problem is alcohol. It's not their criminal behavior or their lack of code for being a law enforcement officer. You are absolutely correct, Bite your ankles. It's cloud cuckoo land. And Zimbabwe's got nothing on this country this day. Bite your ankles. You can only find the truth in DuckDuckGo. It's censored off Google. That's probably true. The boyfriend probably didn't want to pay child support. Probably. Or maybe the wife got even. Who knows? Did she make the mistake of standing up for whites? Lots of lynchings here in the U.S. back in the day when whites who were against the mistreatment of blacks. Yeah, that happened in the South here during the Civil Rights era in particular. A lot of white Americans, it's when black activists in this country try to take the mantle of lynching being solely something that goes to the soul of black Americans. While it certainly does affect the history of relations with black and white Americans, black Americans aren't the only people who are lynched. It was a terroristic tool used against blacks to keep them from being uppity in the South and other places. But this country has seen unlawful extrajudicial lynchings of all kinds of people, including many, many whites and Jews, white Jews, during the Civil Rights Movement, who were also lynched in the South for campaigning for civil rights. And the fact that that was a normal form of justice or prairie or frontier justice in the western part of the United States for decades, people being lynched unlawfully with extrajudicial. So I find it disturbing when one group of people claims it's solely something that affected them when it's not. Just like slavery, like the only people who ever enslaved were black Africans. The institution of the Atlantic slave trade was abysmal. It was horrific. But you're not the only people ever slaved. There's 50, 65, 75 million people living in slavery today, most of them sexual slaves around the planet of all races and ethnicities. In this country, in South Africa, there are sex slaves. There are sex slaves in this state, no doubt. Why aren't we talking about that? It's just simply the Atlantic slave trade, which has been over since 1808 in the United States, and slavery has been over since 1865 by a constitutional amendment in this country. Yet that seems to be the focus and the thing that drives people's narrative. It is important. It's something we shouldn't forget. And you forget it if you get rid of history books and novels. So you don't get rid of those things. You learn from them. But to claim it was the only thing People forget about the Irish who were enslaved in the Caribbean by the Brits. Not indentured servants, but slaves, ladies and gentlemen, picking cotton. Whoa, super chat, Sean. Buy yourselves a Starbucks mocha. Actually, Sean, that will be just enough to buy a Frappuccino. So maybe I will do that, Sean. I'll use that money. Thank you very much for that super chat. Wow, look at that. Imagine if I begged for super chats. They might be coming in like crazy. You guys are wonderful. I'm not even asking for this stuff or mentioning it. Very kind of you. Very kind of you. Yeah, so I got a little bit off track there with my rant, but yeah. Anyway, so the lynchings, they're not solely, and the slavery, not simply an experience for people with dark pigmentation. Think about the Icelanders and the Celts from Ireland who were kidnapped by slavers from North Africa and sold in the slave markets of Algiers and also of Tunis for the better part of 2 centuries, as late as the 1870s, ladies and gentlemen. All right. He was attacked and butchered by more than one guy. I'm not sure who that was. So sad. Can we have a moment of silence for the gentleman, Deutschland, over alles? And thank you for being honest about the atrocities of this place. Yeah, Sean. Okay, yeah, thank you. Not Sean. Is it Sean who said that? Yeah, Sean. Yeah, let's take, ladies and gentlemen, ask you for a moment of silence for the passing of that young lady and for the tragic butchering murder of Edward Neumeister. So just a moment, and we'll get right back to the chat. Ladies and gentlemen, for those tuning in and missing that, wondering why head was down, no, it wasn't in prayer. Just a moment of respectful silence for the horrific loss of life by Miss Pule, the 28-year woman who was stabbed and butchered and then hung from a tree along with her 8-month-old child that was in her stomach, and for the brutal, unnecessary butchering and slaying of the 67-year-old Edward Neumeister in KwaZulu-Natal, the owner of a German-themed restaurant there, originally from Salzburg, Austria. So thank you for that, Sean, for asking me to do that. Elizabeth, it's not a race issue, it's a lawless issue, and our police minister is promoted. Yeah, well, this is the same police minister who was relieved. Watch my video, ladies and gentlemen. I have a video that released this morning talking about Beketsile, and in that video, I didn't just talk about his comments in KZN, which he just made, but I also pointed out this gentleman's career, how he was relieved of office for corruption, and then he was promoted to the top of the list of people on the list to run for parliament for the ANC. Can you imagine that? And then again, of course, appointed by Cyril Ramaphosa in a clear sign that Cyril Ramaphosa was not serious about governance. The argument made was that, well, he had to bring some Zuma acolytes, otherwise he risked, a revolt within the party. Well, this is not the guy to bring back. This guy is a has-been, and yet another in a long series of criminal, corrupt, dishonest, incompetent police ministers in South Africa. Run through the list the last 15 years, and you're going to find a whole host of these clowns. Every one of them has been fired or arrested for corruption. Let's go back to Jackie Silibe, of course. Hendo says, we understand most of us, family and friends, are victims of violence. Yep, no lives matter. Yeah, that seems to be the case in South Africa, at least from the law enforcement angle. ANC jump. Whoa. ANC, I got it. Sorry, the chat jumped on me. Hanky is late. Yeah, Hank, he is late. Jumping a scapegoat. 3 hijackings 4 kilometers from where I stay. Took cars, tied people up in the field. 1 resisted. They stoned and beaten him to death. 7 kilometers from the farmers killed. Yeah, what about those kids on the R21 Pretoria, the 2 white kids and the friend who was black? They were riding, I think, between Benoni and they went up on the R21 to go to Pretoria, I think it was, just several months ago. And these Toitsi or whoever, when they broke down the side of the road or they needed petrol, I think it was, they came up and then they murdered the 2 white kids and then just beat the black kid and tossed him in the weeds, but then they let him live. Murdered him for no reason. There was no money to take from them. They just murdered him. Just really sad. Well, that's where Hank says, sorry, he's late. It is not lives matter. I say life matters, even plant life. Human life need. Yeah, okay, I like that, Sean. That's good. Where are the jackers getting AKs from? Well, AKs, unfortunately, in Africa are easy to come by. And so, of course, remember that Beketsile is the guy that in April of 2019 publicly stated that his goal is to disarm all South African civilians. He doesn't want anyone to have a gun. Only the police and the military should have a gun. Of course, that's the same corrupt military and police. Now, not all the 150,000 officers in the SAPs or the 63,000 people in the SANDF are corrupt, but we just had 300 cops arrested for smuggling and selling illicit things. So anyway, there you go. Right. Okay, let me catch up here real quick because it's getting late here. Dogbreaker says, sorry, I almost missed this. Sorry, Harriet Mako says, I get the feeling you're trying to project SA in a negative light. Please talk about positive things. Crime is not unique to South African. No, it's not. It's not. And obviously, you've not been on all my streams, Harry, or you've not seen all my videos. Sure, we can talk about lots of positive things in South Africa. South Africa has, whoops, something's just happened there. Let me see what it is. Dietrich just, super chat. Well, thank you, Dietrich. Wow, 70 round super chat. Very kind of you for croissant with the latte. You guys are hooking me up here. I don't have to get any food. But I'll get back and thank you again, Dietrich, for that super chat in a moment. But I want to make sure I don't miss this with Harry Mako's comment. If you watch my videos or you read what I write, either online or in books or academic articles, you'll see that I'm complimenting South Africa where it's appropriate. In fact, I've been very complimenting South Africa. I've told people over and over again that if I was an American, the other nationality that I'd want to be is South African. That's a true statement. Love South Africa. It's a beautiful place, beautiful natural beauty, fantastic people, amazing people, whether it's Botswana people who have a special affinity for the Botswana people as well as Afrikaners, but South Africans in general are very interesting people, and it's a wonderful place with lots of great history and lots of heritage and an amazing story to tell. But unfortunately, the African National Congress has decided to embark on a path of their national democratic revolution, which is not national, it's not democratic, and it's not even a revolution. It's simply a communist leftist takeover of civil society. And they are oppressing all South Africans, whether they be white, black, Indian, or colored. I've given the ANC a lot of generous comments, even as late as 2 years ago when I gave a presentation on South Africa's fragile democracy. I didn't pick the topic. It was part of the Great Decisions lecture series. That was a topic. It was assigned. They asked me to speak on it. I did. And if you watch that video, which you can find the link on one of my playlists about South Africa, you'll find that on there. Or you can just search it on YouTube, Great Decisions, South Africa's Fragile Democracy, Wyatt. You'll find my presentation, I'm wearing fatigues, serving on active duty. And you'll find that I'm very generous to the African National Congress just 2 years ago. But since Cyril Ramaphosa has come to office, it's clear that he was never the reformer that people made him out to be. Ramaphosa was a joke. At the time, I said, be cautious. This man was part of the government before he became president, and he's not going to change things for the better. And instead of reforming the government and embarking on a path that recognizes the civil liberties of all South Africans and treating all South Africans as equals, Cyril Ramaphosa has gone off, and more so since the lockdown started, on a racial narrative to attack 4.8 million South Africans and to blame them for everything that's wrong in South Africa and take no responsibility for his party's 26 years of governance and 15 years of abject failure. And it's wrong-headed, incorrect macroeconomic policies, things such as black economic empowerment, which is racist, discriminatory, and counterproductive. The Tourism Relief Fund only giving money to majority-owned businesses, which is stupid, wrong-headed, and unfair, not to mention racially balanced. And the North Gauteng High Court endorsing that decision. That's purely racial. That's insane. Minority-owned businesses, on average, employ 66% of their employees are black South Africans. Not coloreds, not Indians, not white. 66% are black South Africans. So when you harm intentionally a minority-owned business, you are harming yourself if you're worried about the majority of the population. It's a wrong policy. And I'm not going to cover for the ANC. They're simply wrong. Expropriation without compensation. This is unjust. It's unfair. It violates the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, of which South Africa is a party to. It also violates the South African Constitution. And yes, I know the ANC is in the act of trying to alter the Constitution by amending it to allow expropriation with compensation. But this is foolish. You don't advance the society by undermining property rights. Every country in the world that's done this has fallen off a cliff. Countries that protect property rights advance. And when you see proper land reform like we saw in Peru, in which peasants were able to get land tenure for land that they occupied for centuries, became their land, actually had ownership of it, Peru's economy took off like a rocket. The Fatai took off like a rocket. So South Africa's ANC's policies are counterproductive. They are tied up in corruption and the enrichment of a handful of connected elites. We keep hearing about white monopoly capital and whites having all the money and it being unfair. But the reality here, ladies and gentlemen, is that the black middle class is now larger than the white middle class in South Africa. Now, as a natural occurrence of things, that would make sense because blacks make up 81% of the population in South Africa, so I wouldn't have a problem with that. But that's not the depiction we have. We have the depiction that whites have all the money. There are no whites in poverty. Yet we have SABC going to a white Afrikaner squatter camp in Pretoria, on the edge of Pretoria, where these people were in abject poverty, mostly pensioners. And the SABC well-paid photojournalist has the audacity to say to this poor old man who's barely literate in English because his first language is Afrikaans, and he obviously grew up in a different era, and saying to him, well, do you think it's right for you to expect money from the state when you don't have a diverse squatter camp? You don't have black South Africans here? You exclude them? To which the gentleman stood there and just kind of shook his head and like he didn't know how to respond to that. It's a squatter camp. You think it's unjust that white Afrikaans people who live in abject poverty don't include other people to live in abject poverty? What is your brain about? Why would you ask such a stupid question? Why is anybody living in a squatter camp? That's the question. You don't see people in Alexandria inviting poor Afrikaans speaking or poor Nigerians or poor Namibians who are living in South Africa into their squatter camp. Here, come join us in misery. We want you to be with us. Be like us. This is insane. Absolute insanity. The narrative is so upside down because the state controls the media. The independent, free press media are owned by elites who are leftist, who control it for the most part, and people are afraid to speak up because they become targets. This is sick. This is how things were under apartheid. People were afraid to speak up. They would be banned. They would be imprisoned. And we're coming to that in South Africa. So I'm not going to sit here and apologize for the ANC. But saying positive things about South Africa, yeah. Look, who do you want to talk about? I want to talk about the Zulu. The Zulu have a proud tradition, an amazing heritage. You want to talk about the Xhosa people and the relationship with the San and the Khoi in particular, or their 8 or 9 battles and wars with the Boers, the Afrikaners? Interesting stuff. Fantastic. You want to talk about the Basotho people and their close relationship as cousins of the Tswana people and how I can go to Maseru and I say Otsihilishang, Dumelara, and people understand what I'm saying because the languages are that closely related because they're cousins. The only reason the Basotho and the Tswana are separated physically is because of the Mfikane and then the arrival of the truck Boers. We can talk about that. South Africa has beautiful people, beautiful languages, wonderful history. I want to talk about the colors, an amazing group of people with a wonderful sense of humor. Now, I can't stereotype everybody in a group, but generally speaking. So I'm happy to talk about good things about South Africa. So someone bring up a happy topic, and I'll be happy to go on about it. Table Mountain, beautiful place. Pretoria, love it. Madikwe, amazing. Pilanesberg, lovely. The Royal Bafokeng Stadium and the Bafokeng people, wonderful people. I love it. But we're not going to cover up the problems going on in South Africa. Let me see. I hope I didn't come off the wrong way when I was answering your questions there. What's the gentleman's name? Let me go back to it. I assume it was a gentleman. Mako, I think it was Mako. Harry Mako. So I hope I didn't come off the wrong way. I hope you didn't see it that way. I'm happy to talk about South Africa. Listen, I recommend people go to South Africa all the time. I recommend people invest in South Africa. I invest in South Africa in solar energy. And I'm not an alternative energy guy. I just know a lot about it. And I also know that Eskom is highly unreliable. And that's why I invest in that. Okay, so it was right in here. Dan Esterhuizen, ANC jump on a scapegoat. We got that already, so it was past that. And then Sean gave the super chat. Thank you again, Sean, for that super chat for the Starbucks Mocha Java. That's very kind of you. I appreciate it. By the way, being here is enough. Thanks for joining. Yeah, it is. Thanks for whoever was joining. Thanks. Oh, Bite Your Ankle says, I can't super chat. I'm involved in a feeding program. No. Bite Your No. Guys, you don't have to. No, there's no e-begging here, at least not yet. I'm not a starving person. I use the money to good purposes that people are super chatting, but no need to super chat. Thank you for the thought, though. It's very kind of you, Bite Your Ankles. You've been a loyal subscriber from the beginning, and that's what I asked for, is people to come in, join the conversation, become part of this community, which I'm not a community person, so to speak. I've been in the military. I've been around a community for my 36 years in uniform, so I'm not looking for a community. But this has really become a community. I don't know how you guys feel, but it's really amazing. And not just the South Africans who joined the chat, but those around the world who become part of these Stray Voltage live sessions. I had an intention to do this occasionally when an issue came up, but it's becoming more of a regular thing. And because you guys are drawing me back in, I really enjoy it. So, yeah, you can't super chat. That's fine. I had it turned off for a reason because I didn't want people to feel they had to do it. But so many people asked for it, and it's actually kind of fun, the super chats. I actually enjoy watching it happen here and making sure we highlight it and point out the things that people bring up in it. So if you want to super chat and you're capable, that's fine. But if you don't have the resources, please, I would never ask. But it's like I would be the bad pastor in a church if I asked you to put money in the collection plates that you don't have. No. Please don't do that. But thank you for the thought. And thank you for being part of a feeding program. It's really good, Bite Your Ankles. And I'm glad that you're not being arrested for being charitable, which was happening to South Africans who were being arrested for helping starving South Africans in the first phase of the lockdown. Fortunately, they backed off that now. Okay, so let me catch up a little bit here. Something about heartbeat sport. What's going on there? Harry, I get the feeling. Okay, no, I already answered that. I think Harry, however it is, Mako. Did I answer your question, sir? And did I answer it fairly? If not, please let me know, and I'll go. Ant says you're a true gentleman. Are you talking about me? Well, if you are, Ant, thank you so kindly. I appreciate that. Dogbreaker was saying it isn't meant to sound controversial, but clearly it's a case of lack of fathership. Yeah, it's a lack of nuclear family. I think that's what's going on. Whoops. Wow, the chat. You guys are really going to the chat here. I'm missing some things. I apologize for that. What are they pointing out is that released criminals were bound to be housed there. They did not show that bit in the conversation. Oh, I'm not. Yeah, they're releasing criminals in the States, too. We're having all kinds of problems. Am I crazy to see these intersectional feminist socialist communists taking over the left as a byproduct of the cultural subversion Yuri Bezmenov mentioned? Yeah, the left is being taken over by progressives, and it's going even further left. So Right Reverend Rawhide has got a split. Well, take care. Have a good evening. Rugby's positive. Yeah, there you go. Sharks for the Sharks fans. Sloat, PTA, the Bulls. Okay. Keith Alderson, Sean, I think Harry came in when the chat was dealing with some negatives. I trust he'll stick with us for all the positive. Well, thank you, Keith. I hope he did. I hope he's still here. If you come in and you stay for 5 minutes and somebody says something you don't agree with, then you leave. Well, that's not really, I don't know that Harry did that. I'm not accusing Harry of that. But there are people that do that. They come in, they walk in, and then you get other people coming in, oh, Wyatt's talking about this. And this person might be like a racist who believes that Wyatt said this, and he's all, no. Hear the whole story here. I'm all about treating everybody equally. So you got to hear the whole story. As a citizen, I love my country, but I hate my government. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Harry, are we good? Only been stuck for a few days, but since you're conscious character of you, and I'm glad I found your channel. Good people in chat for fun. Yeah, Bobby. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And yeah, we do by and large have a really good group of people who come in here. It's fantastic. And I've had some marathon live streams, which are pretty crazy at times. Like the Saturday interview with Giselle was 4 hours and 20 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. But as Yanni van der Veld said, after it was over, we're like, was it really 4 hours and 20 minutes? It was. I know because as the moderator and host, I was paying attention and periodically playing her music videos to give people a chance to get up and go to the restroom or to get something off the braai or to get a beer or something like that. So, yeah. Yeah. Oh, Harry, Malcolm, you're still here. Good. Harry, listen, I want to try to make sure I addressed your point here. And if you've got a topic you'd like to talk about, please bring it up. I think people find that I'm very liberal when it comes to the chat. If someone has got a positive thing or they want to talk about something specific, I'm happy to do that. I don't know if you've seen that. No, I don't see that interview. Okay, so I'm caught up on the chat. So now let me take this moment here, ladies and gentlemen. For those who don't recall, Kyle, good night. Everyone, thanks for the super. Well, Kyle, thanks for that super chat. Another super chat. Look at that, man. That's coming in. Kyle's got another. Very kind of you, Kyle. Kyle's my moderator, and he's also super chatting. So once again, this is the best of all worlds. He's my moderator, so he's working for me. There's the super chat, 14 rands from Kyle. He's a moderator, and he's working for me, and he's paying for the channel support. That's amazing. So thank you so much. Let me do this again because I do these things periodically, so I want to make sure that people realize this. I do this, and this isn't limited to minority-owned businesses, but these are businesses I have a personal relationship with, so I'm happy to promote it. So the first here is for the opening credits you see for the intro and the outro on my videos, not the live stream, although I did do it on a live stream today. And I have started doing it recently. But on my prepared videos, you always see Indaba Africa opening and then the closing. Well, what is going on here is this is graphics provided by Impulse Graphics, which is under Talon Bezeidenhout. He owns it. And if you want to get some help with graphics, check it out. This is free advertising. I get nothing for this, and I'm not asking anything for it. It's simply promoting South African businesses. And I like the work that Talon does. So check it out, Impulse Graphics, if you need some help with graphics. Fantastic stuff. And there's other businesses I support here. So, for instance, those of you know the caricature. Let me bring up the caricature so those who haven't seen it. So this is a caricature of me at Rugby Cup World Cup 2019, for those who haven't seen it before. And this was done by, This was done by Shink Art. And Shink is amazing. They do wonderful work. There it is. Okay, so Shink Art is right there, and Shink does amazing work. This is me at the Toyota City Stadium, the Springboks versus the Velviches from Namibia, in which the Velviches, of course, got slaughtered. But that's the actual stadium there in the background. And I don't know if he drew every one of those persons individually, but there's a lot of people there. That's me, and yes, those are my calves and my thighs. They are that muscular. My head's not quite that big, though. Anyway, that is me pre-Pete Retief beard and the Rugby World Cup in Japan. Shink Art does weddings and they do family portraits and things like that because they have a photography studio. They're based in Bloemfontein and they do wonderful characters as well. In fact, I'm in good company with my character because they have done characters of Siya Kolisi as well as Joe Black. That was Joe Black before he shaved his beard off. Anyway, but they do wonderful. If you want to get like a little caricature of a family member or something like that for a birthday or some kind of anniversary or something like that, you can reach them online at shink.co.za. Prices are very reasonable in Rand, and they do fantastic work. The turnaround time has been a little slow of late because they've been very busy with the lockdown, but it may have picked up. I don't know. But Shink Art, shink.co.za. Again, that's absolute free advertising. I'm just happy to share it with folks so that you're aware of it. These are South African-owned businesses, and I'm just trying to help folks be aware of them. Now, in addition to that, for those who don't know, we had a concert here live on my channel back on May 8th, and that was Giselle, a Namibian singer who sings in Afrikaans. She performs folk music, country music in English and in Afrikaans, and Afrikaans pop music. You can find it under my past live streams, Giselle, the Lockdown Concert. She premiered and debuted her album, Fit Ons Mensa, here on my channel. It was fantastic. If you don't speak Afrikaans, feel free to watch it anyway. The music is amazing. It's wonderful. She's a wonderful performer. And that's Giselle. And my opening music and closing music are her music videos. In the beginning, it's Fit Ons Mensa. And at the end, we play Plek in die Zonne. Anyway, those I'll have more music coming from her soon, but those are, that was from her concert. She did that right here on the Chris Wyatt Africa channel. In Daba, Africa, back on the 8th of May. So that video is still available if you want to watch it, so check it out. And now I'm trying to get the promotion banner off. And so I just share those things just to kind of help promote these businesses and artists and such in South Africa. So I hope that you guys appreciate that. And I'll do the same for any business in South Africa that I have some sort of relationship with or that I'm comfortable with. Anything to help people invest and support local business in South Africa. So there you go. Let me see. Harry, this is not an echo chamber. Not speaking for Chris. Everyone has an opinion. Chris makes it obvious the debate is welcome, but let us remain true to the man's intentions. Let me see. What did I miss? I must have missed something there because Sean's saying that. So, Dogbreaker says, have you gotten in contact with Conscious Caracal's friend Wotan, the Tswana nationalist from Botswana? Yeah, I did have a conversation with him. I got confused because I thought he was Quentin. And I got confused back and forth. Anyway, yeah, I didn't get in touch with him, and I would like to do a stream. We have to talk more about it. I haven't heard from him in a day or so, but yes, I will do that. Like I say, I do like the Tswana folks, and so I would love to talk to him. I wonder if he wants to talk about Boputa Tswana, which had a beautiful, beautiful national anthem, by the way. Amazing. Smarty, just subscribe. Well, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate that. Let me see. What have I missed here? Bobby keeps asking the same question. Which Bobby? 1.5 hours. Bobby B. What is this? Oh, if you have, okay, that's I don't know that interview. I'll have to check into that. Hit the like button. Evening, how are you doing today? Tommy Kotsi, I'm doing quite well, thank you. I'm getting close to the end of this stream, but I want to thank folks for tuning in so far. Bobby B, the best part of the internet is talking to people you disagree with from all over the world, and I wish we could do it without pissing people off. Yeah, I agree, Bobby B, and this is one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of Twitter, because Twitter just becomes the angry, and that's what people do on Twitter, and so it has its uses, but I'm not a big Twitter fan. I do announce my streams or my prepared videos on Twitter, but that's just to see if people want to come over. But I don't do a lot of chatting on Twitter. Let's see. Okay, so bite your ankles, difficult to hang on to such a useful kit. Okay. Well, you have a progressive here, and no one has tried to threaten me. Victoria, progressive, you're welcome to be here. If you want to share your political ideas, we can talk about them. If they're progressive left, I'll probably have an argument against them, but that's the nice thing about this. We each can have our view and share it, and nobody suffers, and maybe we learn from each other. So thank you for joining us, Victoria. Absolutely. Now, to be fair, and just a full disclosure, I am very unkind to progressives and leftists. That is true. Up front, full disclosure. But if someone has a legitimate argument, I'm willing to listen to it. But what's happening in Seattle and in Oregon is not legitimate, and I doubt that true progressives that really care about advancing things are as radical as what's happening there. But the problem is that these movements have been hijacked, and so there you go. Notorious Jesus, thanks for the stream. Very left. Oh, you're very left. Okay, well, cool. Well, thanks for being here. I hope that you find this interesting, Victoria. But, you know, I've found a lot of people on LinkedIn who think that they're very left and that they also think I'm very right. I'm not nearly as right as people think I am. I am a conservative, but a fiscal conservative. and a conservative when it comes to national defense and security and things like that. But I'm much closer to the center when it comes to most other issues. But what I found on LinkedIn is that people who are clearly far to the left, especially Europeans, think that they can't have a conversation with me or that we're in complete disagreement, like on the environment. Then we start talking, we find out, in fact, that it's much more nuanced than they think. Because we have a conversation, we engage. There's this one person on LinkedIn who commented on some of my comments about what I call this cult religion of climate change. Now, that doesn't mean that I deny climate change or that I don't think that there's something happening in the environment today. But this cult that exists out there is counterproductive, and it doesn't help. And they hang off of simple solutions like 20 years ago. Electric cars. Electric cars are wonderful. Yeah, but what about all the toxic minerals that are mined and whole mountainsides destroyed to find rare earth elements to make those batteries to put in a car? And then you have to recharge that car. Where do you get that from? At the time, 70% of our electricity was delivered by coal-fired power plants. You get it from coal-fired power plants. So you ramp up energy consumption by burning more coal and polluting the environment. And ultimately, these electric cars were more polluting than gasoline internal combustion engines. And it's examples like that that drive me nuts. Or, the melting of the glaciers and this and that. And so people are willing to engage in a cogent conversation. I can learn from them. They can learn from me. But too many people far too often simply want to go off the deep end and start pointing fingers. And I wish I could show it to you. There was this amazing video that appeared on Twitter from this gentleman named Abraham or something like that. He went to a Black Lives Matter demonstration, which of course was all white people who were out there ranting and using foul language and disgusting comments. And he pointed out some of the facts about the number of people killed in police custody each year, who kills them, and so on. And it didn't fit their narrative, so they insulted him, they disparaged him, and they wanted nothing to do with it because they will not change their position despite the facts. A lot of people on the left always claim that people on the right are science deniers, but when science is brought up, people on the left simply ignore it. For instance, when does life begin? It begins at conception. That's a life. Now, is it a cogent life? Is it a sentient life? Arguably no, because that life is not sentient, hasn't developed a brain yet that can have sentient thought. But certainly a 6-month-old child in the womb is sentient and has the ability to think. And so the left denies that so they can have at-will, on-demand abortions, which is the main reason why the black population in America is stagnant at 12.5% to 13.5% of the population, while other groups come into this country in massive numbers, because 300,000 abortions per year in the black community. But Black Lives Matter? Horse mucky. It's nonsense. No discussion of that. Abortion clinics on every corner in inner cities, yet no Safeway store for people to get proper nutrition. Anyway, so let me get back here and catch up. But yeah, I do. Victoria, I'd love to have a chat with you. If you want to send me an email, you're welcome to do it. You can find my email address on the About tab. Don't open it in this tab. You open up another tab and slide across the top where it says About. You have channels, videos. You'll see About. Click on that. You'll see a description of a video, a description of the channel, and then below it my email address. I welcome an email from you, Victoria, if you'd like to send me one. You don't have to feel obliged to do it, but I think I'd like to chat with you more and find out where you're from and where you come from. When I'm talking your worldview, you don't have to tell me your town you're from. Left-right is such a misunderstood notion. It's very nuanced and irrelevant today. Hitler was left. Yep, the Nazis were socialists. That's right. They keep calling them fascists. Anti-fascist, Antifa, they are fascist. It's ironic that their name is anti-fascist because their behavior, they're like the brown shirt Nazi SA stormtroopers who were beating up people in the streets of Germany in the 1930s. Absolutely right. So innovative is not always thought through. Yep. Notorious G, can you demonstrate the paradigms of radical left, radical right? Ooh, that's a lot for this hour. I'm not going to do that tonight, but thank you, Notorious G. It's getting late for the stream. Christine says, talk about environment. I'm going to climb under my 50 blankets to get away from this cold. Good night, folks. Okay, Christine, take care. We're going to shut down here in just a few minutes. The week always have excuses for their bad behavior. Chris, I know it's off topic. I tuned in with your 9/11 show. I don't know if you answered it, but how long did it take the USA to know bin Laden's location? Without disclosing information that may be classified, Tommy, see, I can tell you that the U.S. government was aware of bin Laden's location within a matter of months based on ways he was communicating. His exact location they didn't necessarily have, but they had a general vicinity where he was at, and they could have gotten him at some point. But a lot of intervening things took place. The fact that he was behind the boundaries of yet another nation and just getting approval to do it was a problem. So, yeah, it took a while. Victoria lives in South Africa. Well, I kind of figured that, Victoria. Chris, SA rescue plan announced on Monday they need 75% of creditors to approve. Yeah, I'm going to take a look at that, Tian. As those of you know, I'm very critical of SAA, the state-run dinosaur or fossil that is meant to be the prestige project for the African National Congress, which is ironic because it was a prestige project for the National Party. So they've, in many ways, ladies and gentlemen, for the leftists in the crowd, let me share this with you. in my worldview, and this is going to offend some people on the other side of the aisle, but this is where it's at. You've exchanged a racist system of government by a minority group, by a tiny minority of people who actually were in control and running things, that was essentially a socialist economy, in part out of necessity because of sanctions and other things they had to develop. The Fischer-Tropsch process for liquefaction of coal. So they used that for Sasol. They created that. The state-run utility of Eskom, South African Airways. The list goes on and on. These are all state interventions, in part as a necessity, but nonetheless it was a socialist economy with a privileged group of elites who were given preference for government positions and such. You've exchanged that with a majority-led government that's socialist in nature, that relies on state-owned enterprises for patronage, much like the National Party did. And so all you've done is change the color and appearance of the faces in government in many respects. You have many of the same conditions in South Africa in 2020 that you had in 1985. Now, I know that's going to trigger some people who are extreme on the right, and it's not meant to, but if you're objective and you look at what your government did, whether it was by choice or was forced into it, much of what the National Party did is the exact same thing that the African National Congress is doing today. So when will South Africans be freed from this tyranny from both sides of the aisle and be allowed to live their lives and go about their business and have their freedoms and liberties without being called names and being demonized or denied their rights? I don't know. It's not going to happen in the next 5 minutes, that's for sure. Let's say it's a zombie company for cadres to loot more and put their friends in charge. That's right. Is Trump going to let Seattle stir or push the button to clean up? Trump is probably going to sit back and watch it collapse. The best thing that happened to Fender Deaf in Seattle is the following. You simply turn off the electricity, you turn off the water, you turn off all the connections to the grid of all sorts, and then you ring a fence around them and you let them destroy everything inside it. When they come out emaciated and starving, you slap the bracelets on them, nice piece of jewelry, handcuffs, you lead them away, you charge them with terrorist acts and with insurrection under the Constitution, and then you prosecute them and they spend the rest of their lives in a dark, damp hole. And I know there's thousands of people there, but you know what? We've got room for thousands of people in jail that want to overthrow the U.S. government. They claim it's not violent, but they have shut down the businesses that are operating there for their own personal needs. That's violent takeover. So that's the best way to handle it. Let them come out starving and hungry and then simply arrest them then. Let them have all the fun they want inside there. That's what you do. That's the best approach. And that's what Trump should take. Don't send in troops because that becomes great footage for Twitter and for social media. Oh, look at the stormtroopers. No, don't even bother. And the state shouldn't do it either. But the state also shouldn't be endorsing and talking about Governor Inslee, the free speech. Free speech? That's not free speech. That's an occupation. That's armed intervention. That is insurrection. It's not free speech. It's true. I told Ron Post it's like living through the 80s again on Twitter. Yeah, we need Snake Plissken. There you go. We're back to that. Snake Plissken escaped from New York. Remember, I had a stream I called Escape from South Africa about a week or two ago. Sean says, thanks for indulging the moment of silence, Colonel Wyatt. Your respect for our country truly and bring tears. We have to stop acknowledging. We do have to stop acknowledging atrocities. I agree. Bobby, Chris has a better plan than me. I would send in special forces, offer them one chance. You got the Snake Plissken route there. All right, so poor souls will stay here. Trump is so clever. He doesn't say and do anything without having a plan. That man is well-informed and has insight. Yeah, the funny part, though, of course, is that, Elizabeth, is that Trump is the ultimate troll. So they all think he doesn't know what he's talking about and he's insane. And then he just plans it all in the background and it just happens. I mean, look, North Korea, Little Kim, Rocket Man. Oh, my God, it's going to be a nuclear war. Where's the nuclear war? Now, Trump never promised he'd sort out North Korea, but North Korea isn't launching intercontinental ballistic missiles over the airspace of Japan anymore, which is an act of war. They're not doing that anymore. Why? Because Trump talked to them and gave, puffed up, Kim's little ego, which is what Trump realized needed to be done. It was enough. We're not going to solve North Korea. Not until that family is eliminated and some kind of internal coup or revolution takes place will North Korea ever change. So that's not our job. That's the job of North Koreans. Oh my God, China, trade is going to stop. No, trade didn't stop. Even with COVID-19, trade hasn't stopped between China and the States. China has come to the negotiating table and is agreeing to behave better. Whether they do or not is another story. Oh my God, NAFTA, he's going to destroy. Well, now we have the U.S., Canada, Mexico trade, USMCA, Mexico trade agreement, and both parties have signed up to it. Now intellectual property is properly protected, copyright's better protected, and services are addressed better, and the terms are better for the United States, which in turn makes it better for Mexico and for Canada, more equitable across the board. Yeah. So everything they say about Trump, because he runs his mouth, none of it's true. You got to watch what the man does, not what he says. All right. So Victoria says, then if you don't agree with what people are saying, why get upset because you don't like what people are saying? Well, you can get upset. I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting upset. I mean, it's acting on being upset. There's a difference there. Whinging about something is one thing. Getting a nightstick and going out and beating people or occupying their homes or burning things and spray painting or tearing down the 54th Massachusetts Regiment, a regiment of all black soldiers with a white colonel who led them into battle in the Civil War at Fort Fisher, and tearing it down because Black Lives Matter. What about the black lives that were surrendered trying to end slavery and preserve the Union by the 54th Massachusetts? I have a right to be upset about that. And if I'm upset about that, that's my prerogative. But I'm not going to go out and harm somebody over it, whereas people on other sides of the aisle and other parts of the aisle are harming people. So maybe we misunderstood each other, Victoria. Should be able to protest without being afraid. Of course people should be able to protest. It's not a protest. This isn't a protest. It's an insurrection. A protest gets a permit. For public safety, you get a permit for protest. In South Africa, the same. You must have a permit to protest because there are conditions so that you don't affect public safety, whether it's traffic and or pedestrians or businesses. You don't shut business down. So you get a permit. You're allowed to protest certain ways. These people are violating the lockdowns taking place in state after state. They're endangering people. We have CNN. Now I am getting upset. We have CNN running around writing stories about Trump not wearing a mask. Like that freaking matters. He's not near anybody. And we have tens of thousands of idiots sitting in streets, walking around with no mask, painting murals on people's property, damaging property, beating people in the streets because they don't agree with them. That's what I'm talking about. That's not legitimate. That's not protest. If people want to protest the murder of George Floyd, they are welcome to do it as long as they abide by the conditions. If there were no lockdown, we wouldn't have to worry about social proximity. But there's a lockdown. They're violating. Yet when people go to protest the totalitarian actions of governors and mayors in these states, they're painted by the press, by CNN, MSNBC, CBS, NBC, and the endless list of clowns out there as right-wing fanatics and militia, armed militia, which is horse crap. The people who protested in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania last month were from left and right. There were black, white, and brown up there. I saw them on television. Now, they didn't maintain their social distance, some of them, and that's why I didn't go to the protest, even though it was lawful and I agreed with their sentiment, because I adhered to the rules. Even though they're hysterical, I followed them, even though I disagree with them. It's a big distinction here. That was a legitimate protest portrayed by the press as something it wasn't. We see insurrection taking place in the streets, or they're not protests. The protests are over, ladies and gentlemen. Most of what's going on now is an insurrection, and that's the truth. That's the truth. But the press doesn't want to be honest about that. Protesting is fine. We have a right to protest. We have a right to assemble in this country of Victoria and in South Africa. But you try to assemble in South Africa a month ago under a lockdown, and you find out what happens to you. You find how quickly SAPS comes out. Or you be the one white guy living in his neighborhood on the beach in a suburb of Cape Town with your child strapped to your chest, and a cop comes up to you because you're standing in your yard and arrests you and takes you and locks you up for 8 hours. Or a couple who are out walking on the sidewalk and the child throws a tantrum, so the woman sits down the side of the beach to nurse her child. She and the toddler and her husband or partner are drug off to prison, now have a criminal record. They have a court appearance for violating a lockdown. Or be the colored person who's arrested in a township outside of Cape Flats because you had the temerity to walk to the package store. Yeah, no. That's not. Anyway, so getting carried away here. Sorry. I was going to end this, but I get carried away. What's your take on removal of statues in the UK? I haven't seen anything about statues in the UK being removed, Colonel, but we'd have to talk about it. I think the removal of any statue that's done by criminals who pull them down is a criminal act, and they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. If, however, a community meets and a city decides to remove statues, that's a different story. I would have to look at it on a case-by-case basis whether I believe in it or not. The removal of the Rhodes statue at Rhodes University in Cape Town was a shameful, disrespectful act. The people only have a university thanks to the magnanimity of Cecil Rhodes in leaving an endowment for that university. Much like the irony of the Nobel Prize, the Nobel was funded by the trust fund of Alfred Nobel, who created dynamite, one of the most dangerous substances in the history of mankind, used to kill millions of people. Yet the Nobel Peace Prize is handed out by the Nobel Committee, which is funded by money raised by selling dynamite. There are ironies in life, ladies and gentlemen. This nonsense that happens at Rhodes University, this nonsense happening around the United States, destruction of the 54th Massachusetts monument is ridiculous. People need to behave themselves. This is not civil society. If you disagree with it, you disagree with Columbus statue, then you can have a cogent conversation with it. You can have a petition against it. You can march against it. You can demonstrate against it. But ripping down statues is criminal, and these people must be prosecuted. You cannot allow this. People who will do that will be the same people that will attack other people. Very simple. No excuses for it. They tore down the Black Regiment. That's right. Selling missiles to Taiwan to stop China. Yeah, we do sell missiles to Taiwan. Bobby says that was the right button to push. Yeah, it was the right button to push. Yeah, they put food in the autonomous zone in Seattle, and the homeless were there, and they ate all their food. Now they're whining and they want food. Too bad. I haven't seen that show from Dave Chappelle Defender. I'll have to check it out where he explains this. It's all right. The complete crap nowhere. Poor little Anderson Cooper, a.k.a. the Silver Surfer. Fake Mace Trivia. Are you asking me what I think of statues? No, I'm not. Anyway. But Victoria, thanks for adding to the conversation, and thanks for triggering me. It was actually kind of fun. But on a serious note, Victoria, you're welcome to write to me if you'd like. You're no obligation. I'd love to chat with you. Same with Harry. Harry, if you want to chat about some things that you might not want to put here in the chat because you may not feel comfortable, we can do that in private. Don't worry about it. Send me an email. I'm happy to chat. They removed Cecil Rhodes and defaced Churchill. Yeah, why would you deface Churchill? That's idiotic. Jan van Riebeck. Yeah, I know they want to remove Jan van Riebeck. Chris, go watch Morning Shot interview Roman Kaepernick with my Rabani last night. This guy's next comedy, part of the Rhodes Must Fall. Excellent interview. I will check it out. I saw it, but I didn't watch it because I was busy. Okay, folks. So we're at 2:05. I want to thank you all. We shall see. What are we going to see, Victoria? All right. We shall see what. What are we going to see? What happens? Somebody tweet POTUS and ask if we can buy Apache for a few days. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so thank you so much for the super chats. That was very kind of folks. Really cool. I'm going to put that money to good use when it gets to me eventually after YouTube takes their big cut. So Quentin did a super chat, 14, Kyle 14, Kyle 14. No, I didn't stumble. That was a repeat. Kyle did 2 of them. Dietrich, 70 Rand. Elizabeth, stripper chat, 50 Rand. Nobody did the super stickers. Those are kind of cool. Kyle with another 14 super Rand. Sean with a 70 Rand. Dietrich with a 70 Rand before he ran out for the evening. And Kyle with a 14 Rand super chat. Thank you all so much for those. I hope I didn't miss anybody. I want to appreciate you guys coming in. Why space exploration? I'm a big supporter of that. Anyway, so that's going to be it today, folks. Not because I want to run away. There's a lot of people still in the stream, but I don't want to keep people up forever. It's already 11:20 in South Africa and in Botswana. And I'm going to go get some exercise here. It's late afternoon on the East Coast of the U.S. So I'm going to leave with... once again, Giselle's Plek in die Zon, which is a beautiful song. I hope you guys enjoy it. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all so much for the questions, for the chat. Victoria, thanks for triggering me. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Feel free to reach out. And I will have on tomorrow, Ernst van Zyl, The Conscious Caracal. That's 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. in Gaborone and in Johannesburg. And then on Sunday, special feature with Phil Craig, who is one of the folks responsible for the Cape Separation movement that's taking place, the secession movement. That should be an interesting discussion on Sunday. For those of you who've tuned into my channel, you know that I'm not a person that's openly in favor of secession. I think it's a futile exercise, but I'm going to learn and see. We'll see what he has to say. And I'm a skeptic, but that doesn't mean my mind can't be changed on any issue. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you and your families. I hope that you're safe and have a wonderful evening. And thank you for tuning in. We're going to close out here now with Giselle, and this is Plek in die Zon. Look at that, Elizabeth, super chat. Look at that. That's a super sticker. Thank you so much. I love that's a little, is that a hippo? I love that. That's really cool. All right, folks, we're going to close out here, as I said, just a second. Let me take myself off the camera there, and we're going to, come on, there it is. Here it is. Enjoy your evening, ladies and gentlemen.